Warrior Lore. Chapter 1260. In Duan Lingtian's opinion, Yang Hui must have found out about his background since he took the initiative to look for him. However, he soon realized that he had overestimated Yang Hui. There's no news yet. Yang Hui knew what Duan Lingtian was asking about, so he shook his head immediately. Brother Lingtian, you should know that the Cloud Continent, even if it's just the inner land, covers a vast area. I'll need more time to find out about your background. Upon hearing that, Duan Lingtian nodded in disappointment. He then asked, Is there something else you're looking for me for? Yes. Yang Hui nodded and said, I'm here to say goodbye to you, Brother Lingtian. We'll depart in 10 days. Depart? Duan Lingtian was stunned at first before he regained his senses and asked, Hidden Fog Island? Yes. Yang Hui nodded again. All right. Duan Lingtian replied. Seeing that Yang Hui had nothing else to say, he returned to his room and continued to cultivate and comprehend the two profundities. His ability was also improving at an extremely fast speed. 10 days was not long for an ordinary person, let alone Duan Lingtian, who had been cultivating day and night. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. I've regained a lot of my memories. However, I still can't remember who I am. Duan Lingtian shook his slightly dizzy head and muttered to himself as he walked out of the wooden house. Duan Lingtian. Not long after he left the wooden house, Duan Lingtian heard two familiar voices. When he looked in the direction of the voices, he realized it was Nangong Yi calling out to him. There was a proud and aloof figure standing next to Nangong Yi. It was none other than Nangong Chun. Why are the two of you here? Duan Lingtian was slightly surprised when he saw the two of them. It's all thanks to you that we can cultivate here, Nangong Yi said with a smile. He then told them about how they were brought here by Martial Emperor Ling Xian's third direct disciple, Zhong'an, and how Martial Emperor Ling Xian had taken care of them. I see. Realization dawned on Duan Lingtian. That's good as well. All of you can stay in Ling Xian Peak as you wish. With the treatment of a Martial Emperor's direct disciple, I'm sure all of you will have great achievements in the future. Duan Lingtian, I heard that Emperor Wu is going to take 10 people, including 3 of his direct disciples, on a long journey today. Are you going with him at this time? Nangong Yi asked curiously. Brother Lingtian, it's time to go. Before Duan Lingtian could speak, a familiar voice resonated from the sky and entered Duan Lingtian's ears. It also entered Nangong and his brother's eyes. It's Lord Emperor Wu. Nangong and his brother immediately recognized the owner of the voice as Spirit Profound Emperor Wu. At the same time, they confirmed that Duan Lingtian was indeed going to leave with Spirit Profound Emperor Wu. After greeting Nangong and his brother, Duan Lingtian flew toward the source of the voice. A moment later, he saw the owner of Ling Xian Peak, Spirit Profound Emperor Wu, Yang Hui. Yang Hui stood there with 3 people following closely behind him. These 3 people were no strangers to Duan Lingtian. They were Yang Hui's 3 direct disciples. They were also the only 3 direct disciples of Emperor Wu in Ling Xian Peak. They were Zhou Di, Song Ting, and Zhong'an. There were 6 other people following behind the 3 of them. To Duan Lingtian, these 6 people were all unfamiliar faces. It seemed like he had never seen them before. Of course, even if he had seen them before, he would have forgotten about them. Seeing that Duan Lingtian had arrived, Yang Hui warmly welcomed Duan Lingtian to his side. As for the 3 direct disciples behind him, Zhou Di and Zhong'an smiled and nodded at him as a form of greeting. Only Song Ting's expression did not look too good since Duan Lingtian appeared. Warrior Lore. Forget about greeting Duan Lingtian. It was already good enough that he did not fight with Duan Lingtian. Lord Lingtian. Under Zhou Di's signal, the remaining 6 people bowed respectfully to Duan Lingtian and addressed him as Lord. The current Duan Lingtian was indeed worthy of being addressed as such. At the very least, he was worthy of being addressed as such in front of these people. Let's go. As Yang Hui spoke, a majestic and vast invisible energy spread out and enveloped everyone, including Duan Lingtian, in the blink of an eye. No one was left out. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian felt his vision blur. In the next moment, he felt his body flying out. He finally realized that Yang Hui was bringing him and the others on their journey. It made sense when he thought about it. If they traveled at the speed of the person with the weakest cultivation base, they would not even know when they would be able to leave Cloud Continent, let alone when they would arrive at Hidden Fog Island. Compared to Duan Lingtian's momentary shock, apart from Zhou Di and the other two direct disciples of Emperor Wu, the others were shocked for half a day when they were brought along. Brother Ling Tian, I'm sure you'll be able to find out about your origin when we return next time, Yang Hui said to Duan Lingtian along the way. Yang Hui felt guilty for not being able to help Duan Lingtian find out his origin after so long. All right, Duan Lingtian nodded. He was not surprised since he was mentally prepared. My memories are gradually recovering with the passage of time. Perhaps it's just as Tortoise said. After a year, my memories will completely recover. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Hidden Fog Island. Overseas Saint Island. I'm really looking forward to it. Duan Lingtian's thoughts started to wander. His eyes gleamed as he looked forward to the place he was about to go. There's also the exquisite jade box that my cheapskate father gave me. With my current ability, I should be able to open it, right? Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Subsequently, an exquisite jade box appeared in his hand as he lifted his hand. Just as Duan Lingtian was trying to open the exquisite jade box, in the northern part of Cloud Continent's inner land, in the world of ice and snow, silhouettes rose into the sky one after another. There were a total of 11 people, and all of them were women. Let's go. As the woman in the lead spoke calmly, a vast invisible energy surged out of her body. It shrouded the 10 women behind her and led them to the north quickly. Kerr, it's all thanks to your Han Bing's God Sword technique. If it wasn't for Han Bing's God Sword technique, we wouldn't have become Emperor Wu's direct disciples as soon as we arrived at Yuhan Valley. We wouldn't have had the chance to see the foreign world overseas either. Among the 10 women, there was a woman who had a peerless appearance and a great figure. She could not help but exude an enchanting and seductive aura as she spoke to another woman beside her. This woman's beauty was on par with the former. However, there was a huge difference between her temperament and the former's. Chapter 1261. At the northwestern polar region of the inner land of Cloud Continent, 11 figures rose into the sky. Among the 11 people, the leader was an old man. The old man was tall and had a majestic aura between his brows. He was dressed in a golden robe and looked majestic. Behind the old man, there were 10 people, both men and women. Among the 10 people, only one was a woman while the remaining 9 were men. However, among the 10 people, the woman seemed to have the highest status. This was because she was the only one following closely behind the golden-robed old man. The others followed behind her. Suddenly, the golden-robed old man seemed to have noticed something. He turned around abruptly, and his gaze landed on the black-clad young man at the back. The black-clad young man was tall and handsome. However, he was walking at the back and seemed to be keeping a low profile. Zoe, why you've broken through to the Emperor Wu stage? As the golden-robed old man spoke in surprise, his eyes lit up like the stars in the night sky. As the old man spoke, the woman in blue who was following closely behind him reacted immediately. Her eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Subsequently, the remaining 8 people returned to their senses as well. They turned around and stared at the black-clad young man at the back as though they had seen a ghost. Emperor Wu stage? He's broken through to the Emperor Wu stage? Yes, master. The black-clad young man nodded at the golden-robed old man in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. If there were people from Lost Stone Forest here, they would definitely recognize the black-clad young man as the former Emperor Wu's direct disciple in Lost Stone Forest. He was also the direct disciple of Emperor Wu who was highly regarded by Emperor Wu, Zhou Yi. After Zhou Yi stole the Devil Seal tablet from Martial Emperor Shi, he had betrayed Lost Stone Forest and fled. Later on, although Emperor Wu wanted to find him, he discovered him too late and ended up empty-handed. For a period of time after that, Zhou Yi hid everywhere, afraid that Emperor Wu would find him. Until some time ago, when he heard that there was an Emperor Wu recruiting Emperor Wu's disciples and followers, he decided to become a disciple of this Emperor Wu. He had long heard of this Emperor Wu. He was an even stronger Emperor Wu than Shi. Relying on his strength that was half a step into the realm of Emperor Wu, Zhou Yi easily passed the selection of Emperor Wu's disciples and followers, which was held at the cultivation grounds of Emperor Wu, and successfully became the disciple of Emperor Wu. After becoming Emperor Wu's disciple, he became even more outstanding and attracted the attention of Emperor Wu. He became Emperor Wu's personal disciple in one fell swoop. However, although he became Emperor Wu's personal disciple, he was no longer as ostentatious as he was when he was in Lost Stone Forest. Ever since he left Lost Stone Forest, he had learned to be more reserved. He knew very well that compared to a vicious wolf that bit people like a madman, a venomous snake that lay in wait would undoubtedly live longer. Therefore, he became Emperor Wu's personal disciple who kept the lowest profile under Emperor Wu. However, such a low-profile martial emperor's direct disciple had actually made a breakthrough to the martial emperor stage, causing the group of people to be inexplicably shocked. The golden-robed old man was one of the few powerhouses under Emperor Wu on Cloud Continent. His title was Lei Ming, and his strength was not inferior to the person in Yuhan Valley. Haha, good. Upon hearing Zhou Yi admitting that he had broken through to the realm of Emperor Wu Lei Ming laughed heartily before the others could react. This also means that I, Emperor Wu Lei Ming, have a second Emperor Wu's personal disciple who has reached the realm of Emperor Wu. Emperor Wu Lei Ming beamed with joy. Congratulations, Master. Congratulations, Lord Emperor Wu. At this moment, the 9 people, including the blue-clad lady who followed closely behind Emperor Wu Lei Ming, congratulated Emperor Wu Lei Ming. Many of them looked at Zhou Yi with envy. They knew very well. From the moment Zhou Yi broke through to the realm of Emperor Wu, he was destined to become the Emperor Wu's personal disciple whom Emperor Wu Lei Ming valued the most. Naturally, it was to become one of the 2 personal disciples that Emperor Wu Lei Ming valued the most. This was because there was already one Emperor Wu Lei Ming's personal disciple under Emperor Wu Lei Ming. It was the blue-clad lady who followed closely behind Emperor Wu Lei Ming, Lan Bai. Junior brother Zhou, congratulations on breaking through to the realm of Emperor Wu. Lan Bai looked at Zhou Yi and congratulated him with a smile. Thank you, senior sister Bai. Zhou Yi quickly thanked her. Junior brother Zhou, why are you following behind? Are you afraid that senior martial sister and master will eat you? Lan Bai asked with a slight frown as she glanced at where Zhou Yi was standing. Of course not. Zhou Yi shook his head. Zhou Yi, stand next to your senior sister. Why are you following behind Emperor Wu Lei Ming's personal disciple? At this moment, Emperor Wu Lei Ming spoke. Yes, master. Zhou Yi replied respectfully. Zhou Yi did not dare to disobey Emperor Wu Lei Ming's words, since he still needed to rely on Emperor Wu Lei Ming's protection. Although he had broken through to the realm of Emperor Wu Lei Ming, in terms of strength, let alone Emperor Wu Lei Ming, he was far from being comparable to his former master, Emperor Wu Shiqi from Lost Stone Forest. I hope you can win glory for me in the Hidden Fog martial competition. As long as you get a good ranking, I won't mistreat you. Emperor Wu Lei Ming looked at Zhou Yi, who had just arrived next to Lan Bai, and said slowly, Don't worry, master. I, Zhou Yi, will do my best to win glory for Master and Thundercloud Peak. Zhou Yi said solemnly. Thundercloud Peak was where Emperor Wu Lei Ming cultivated. Good. Upon hearing Zhou Yi's words, Emperor Wu Lei Ming smiled happily. He raised his hand, and a narrow saber with light swirling around it appeared in his hand. Take this spirit saber as a congratulatory gift from me to congratulate you on breaking through to the Emperor Wu stage. Emperor Wu Lei Ming passed the spirit saber in his hand to Zhou Yi as he spoke. This, Emperor Wu Lei Ming's action shocked the 9 people, including Lan Bai. It's Lord Emperor Wu's spirit saber. Lord Emperor Wu's spirit saber is one of the only 2 quasi-royal grade spirit weapons in Thundercloud Peak. The other quasi-royal grade spirit weapon was given to senior sister Bai a few years ago when she broke through to the Emperor Wu stage. In other words, this is the only quasi-royal grade spirit weapon in Lord Emperor Wu's possession. If he gives it away, Lord Emperor Wu can only use a grade 1 spirit weapon. Soon after, many people regained their senses and whispered among themselves. Most of them looked at Zhou Yi enviously. A minority of them looked at Zhou Yi with jealousy in their eyes. The minority of them were Emperor Wu's direct disciples. They had always coveted the quasi-royal grade spirit saber in Emperor Wu Lei Ming's possession. All of them wanted to break through to the Emperor Wu stage as soon as possible to obtain the quasi-royal grade spirit saber. Unexpectedly, a direct disciple of Emperor Wu who had just joined Thundercloud Peak not long ago had broken through to the Emperor Wu stage before them. Master, this is inappropriate. Junior brother Zhou has just joined Thundercloud Peak not long ago. It's too risky for you to give him the quasi-royal grade spirit weapon so hastily. That's right, Master. The other two direct disciples of Emperor Wu hurriedly advised Emperor Wu Lei Ming. Their words were very clear. They were worried Zhou Yi would leave Thundercloud Peak after obtaining the quasi-royal grade spirit weapon. In that case, the quasi-royal grade spirit weapon would become Zhou Yi's wedding dress. Hermph, don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Upon hearing the words of the two direct disciples of Emperor Wu Lei Ming, Emperor Wu Lei Ming snorted coldly. If you want to blame someone, blame yourselves for being useless. From today onward, this quasi-royal grade spirit saber of mine will be Zhou Yi's spirit weapon. When Martial Emperor Lei Ming reached the end of his sentence, he looked at Zhou Yi again under the gaze of the two Martial Emperor's direct disciples. Master, what the two senior brothers said actually makes sense. You should keep this spirit saber for yourself. Zhou Yi did not take the spirit saber that Emperor Wu Lei Ming sent over. Since I said I'm giving it to you, you should take it. Although this quasi-royal grade spirit weapon is not much stronger than a grade 1 spirit weapon, it's still stronger than a grade 1 spirit weapon. With it, you'll be able to display your strength better in the Hidden Fog martial competition and obtain a good ranking. Emperor Wu Lei Ming insisted on giving the quasi-royal grade spirit saber to Zhou Yi. Master, I understand what you mean. However, I already have a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon with me. Even if you give your spirit saber to me, I won't be able to use it. Zhou Yi smiled. Zhou Yi's words shocked not only Emperor Wu Lei Ming, but the others as well. Zhou Yi had a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon? Junior brother Zhou, you can't joke about this. This is related to the Hidden Fog martial competition. You don't have to care about their gossip. To put it bluntly, they're just jealous of you. Lan Bai said as she looked at Zhou Yi. The other two direct disciples of Emperor Wu Lei Ming turned pale. They did not dare to say anything for a long time. As the direct disciple of Emperor Wu Lei Ming, Lan Bai was the strongest person in Thundercloud Peak after Emperor Wu Lei Ming. Even if the two of them joined forces, they were still no match for Lan Bai. Lan Bai is right. You can't joke about this. Emperor Wu Lei Ming said solemnly as well. Master, senior sister, you should take a look at it yourselves. Zhou Yi shook his head. When he lifted his hand, a strange stone tablet appeared in his hand. The stone tablet was strange because it was missing a corner. Apart from the missing corner, the stone tablet was also engraved with strange words. These characters exuded an ancient and vicissitude aura from top to bottom. Whoosh! As the origin energy in Zhou Yi's hand surged into the strange stone tablet, the stone tablet suddenly trembled. In the air, the heaven and earth energy stirred. First, two silhouettes of ancient black dragons appeared. Then, another two silhouettes of ancient black dragons appeared. For silhouettes of ancient black dragons intertwined. The two silhouettes of ancient black dragons were the symbol of a first-level Emperor Wu stage martial artist. The doubling of strength was the symbol of a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon. It's really a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon. Many people lost their composure and exclaimed. Chapter 1262. The stone tablet with a missing corner that Zhou Yi took out was the Devil Seal tablet. In the past, he had betrayed his master, Emperor Wu Shiqi, and betrayed Lost Stone Forest because of the secret contained in the Devil Seal tablet. However, until now, apart from knowing that the Devil Seal tablet could be used as a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon, he had not discovered any other uses for it. Junior brother Zhou, I admire you. At this moment, Lan Bai gave Zhou Yi a thumbs up and praised. If I were you, I wouldn't reject the quasi-royal grade spirit weapon that Master gave me even if I already have a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon. Everyone present agreed with Lan Bai's words. Even Thunderclap Emperor Wu himself looked at Zhou Yi with satisfaction. Now, Do you still think Zhou will leave Thundercloud Peak after receiving the quasi-royal grade spirit weapon from me? Thunderclap Emperor Wu asked as he glanced at his two direct disciples nonchalantly. When the two of them heard this, they smiled wryly and lowered their heads. They did not dare to refute, nor could they refute. They did not expect Zhou to be so ruthless to reject the quasi-royal grade spirit weapon that was given to him. In fact, quasi-royal grade spirit weapons were priceless on Cloud Continent. Nobody would complain about having too many of them. However, the group of people present, including Thunderclap Emperor Wu, did not know Zhou true thoughts at all. Zhou did not do this because of his good character. He did this mainly because he wanted to establish the best image in front of Thunderclap Emperor Wu. With this, he would not be afraid even if he encountered Emperor Wu Shiqi on the hidden fog island, because Thunderclap Emperor Wu would protect him. With Thunderclap Emperor Wu's protection, he was not afraid of Emperor Wu Shiqi at all. Where there's loss, there's gain. At this moment, Zhou kept comforting himself in his heart. It would be a lie if he said he did not feel heartache when a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon passed by him just like that. Let's go. Along with Martial Emperor Lei Ming's loud shout, a surge of majestic and vast invisible energy gushed out of his body. It led the 10 people, including Zhou and Lan Bai, straight to the north. Their target was the overseas Saint Island, Hidden Fog Island, located deep in the sea north of Cloud Continent, southeast of Thundercloud Peak, a place extremely far away. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Figures that were faster than lightning flashed through the sky. Everywhere they passed, the clouds and mist were scattered, and it took a long time for them to gather together again. The target of these figures was the north of the inner land, which was also the north of Cloud Continent. There were a total of 11 figures. The person in the lead was a young man. When he flew forward, his entire body seemed to have turned into a sword. Together with the 10 people he was leading, they seemed to have turned into a gigantic sword. The giant sword pierced through the air at an astonishing speed. Pa! A clear sound rang out. Duan Lingtian discovered that the exquisite jade box in his hand was actually opened all of a sudden, revealing a gap. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's gaze became somewhat absent-minded. He still remembered. In the past, there were a few times when he tried to open the exquisite jade box with all his might, but to no avail. At that time, he even used his spirit weapon, but it was still to no avail. However, right now, he did not use any spirit weapon or origin energy. He only used 2 types of profundities to easily open the exquisite jade box. As soon as the exquisite jade box was opened, it attracted the attention of the person in the lead, the Spirit Profound Realm Emperor Wu, Yang Hui. Brother Lingtian, I think it's something my father left for me, Duan Lingtian replied. This was also a small part of his memory that he had recently recovered. You've recalled your origin? Yang Hui's eyes lit up when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. No. Duan Lingtian shook his head. I've only recovered a part of my memory. I just happen to recall this thing and its origin. As for other things, I still can't recall them. Duan Lingtian frowned when he reached the end of his sentence. He seemed to be trying hard to recall something, but it was to no avail. I see. Yang Hui finally understood. Seeing that Duan Lingtian seemed to be trying his best to recall something, he did not ask any further, afraid that it would affect Duan Lingtian's mood again. I still can't recall. Duan Lingtian sighed inwardly. Although he recalled the origin of the exquisite jade box in his hand and knew that it was left behind by his cheapskate father, his memories of his cheapskate father were extremely blurry. He could not recall it all. The more he thought about it, the more his head hurt. In the end, he still could not recall anything. Perhaps, just like what Bastard said, I need time, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. In the past 6 months, his memory had been recovering, and he could recall many things that he could not remember in the past. He had no choice but to believe what Wang Ba said in the past. According to Wang Ba, he would need more than a year to completely recover his memory. According to the part of my memory that I've temporarily recovered, there seems to be something left behind by my cheapskate father in this jade box. Moreover, it's quite important. Out of curiosity, Duan Lingtian opened the exquisite jade box completely. Everything inside the exquisite jade box was revealed before his eyes. He saw a jade slip lying quietly in the exquisite jade box. It was a voice transmission jade slip. Other than the voice transmission jade slip, there was another jade slip that was thicker. Upon closer inspection, it did not seem to be a jade slip. Instead, it seemed to be a jade token. Other than the voice transmission jade slip and the jade token, there was nothing else in the exquisite jade box. What's this? Duan Lingtian was puzzled as he looked at the jade token. There was no record of this thing in his memory. Perhaps the part of my memory that I've lost knows what this is. However, Duan Lingtian did not know that even if he completely recovered his memory, he would not be able to recognize what this jade token was. Soon after, Duan Lingtian picked up the voice transmission jade slip. He could still recognize the voice transmission jade slip. It should be a message left behind by my cheapskate father. Duan Lingtian's heart jolted. At the same time, he merged his origin energy into the voice transmission jade slip in his hand, causing it to flash with a dazzling luster. At once, a familiar voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears clearly. Tian when you opened the exquisite jade box and obtained this voice transmission jade slip, your cultivation base should have already broken through to the innate void restoration stage. Innate void restoration stage? Duan Lingtian was stunned. If it was in the past, perhaps he would not know what the innate void restoration stage meant. However, ever since Wang Ba told him about it, he knew that the innate void restoration stage was equivalent to the Emperor Wu stage on Cloud Continent. How would my cheapskate father know about the innate void restoration stage? Duan Lingtian's heart was filled with doubts. Due to the fact that he had lost part of his memory, Duan Lingtian did not know that his father had brought his mother and 3 other girls away from Cloud Continent to a faraway place. He suspected that they had gone to the Dao Martial Saint Land. According to Bastard, the innate void restoration stage seems to be the name of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. At this moment, the familiar voice continued to sound from the voice transmission jade slip. The innate void restoration stage is the Emperor Wu stage on Cloud Continent. First-rate martial emperors are considered to be at the peak of the Cloud Continent. However, in the Dao Martial Saint Land, they're only at the peak of the mortal stage. Therefore, you mustn't be arrogant. At this time, I'm sure you're curious about the Dao Martial Saint Land. I'll explain it to you. The Dao Martial Saint Land is another continent in this world. Just like the Cloud Continent, this place respects the law of the jungle where the strong are respected. However, the martial emperors of the Cloud Continent can't be considered as strong here. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, the peak of the mortal stage is the innate void restoration stage. After entering the innate void restoration stage, you'll cultivate all the way to the peak of the innate stage before you begin to transform. To describe this transformation in layman terms, it's called mortal shedding. After the innate stage is the mortal shedding stage. Once you enter the mortal shedding stage, you'll be considered to have stepped into the threshold of becoming a powerhouse in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Above the mortal shedding stage is the Saint Rudiment stage. This is the so-called Saint Rudiment stage. After the Saint Rudiment stage is the Saint stage. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, the mortal shedding stage is considered as stepping into the threshold of being a powerhouse. Those who are publicly acknowledged as powerhouses are all at the Saint stage or above. Now, you should know the meaning of the words "there's always someone better than you," right? Compared to the Dao Martial Saint Land, Cloud Continent is just a mortal continent. The familiar voice continued to enter Duan Lingtian's ears, showing him another world, the Dao Martial Saint Land. He had heard a little about the Dao Martial Saint Land from Wang Ba, so he was not surprised at all. However, although he was not surprised, his heart was still filled with yearning for the Dao Martial Saint Land. There are many places in the Dao Martial Saint Land that are different from the Cloud Continent. For example, there are only martial cultivators on the Cloud Continent. However, in the Dao Martial Saint Land, apart from martial cultivators, there are also Dao cultivators and devil cultivators. Not only that, in the Dao Martial Saint Land, no matter how strong one is, they won't be able to mobilize the heaven and earth energy to form the heaven and earth phenomenon. Not only that, the Saint-grade martial tactic in the Dao Martial Saint Land is the real technique. No matter how strong the martial skill on the Cloud Continent is, it's just a vassal of strength. In the Cloud Continent, as long as one's strength is strong enough, one can defeat someone who has cultivated a heaven-rank martial skill but is much weaker than oneself without using any martial skill. However, this won't happen in the Dao Martial Saint Land. All in all, the Dao Martial Saint Land is a place full of miracles. I didn't bring you with me when I left the Cloud Continent because I hoped you could stay on the Cloud Continent to train so that you'd have a better foothold in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Chapter 1263. A familiar voice resonated in Duan Ling Tian's ears as he roughly explained some things about the Dao Martial Saint Land to him. He was confused by many of the things. Based on what my cheapskate father said, it seems like he purposely didn't bring me to the Dao Martial Saint Land. The reason he did that was to train me? Duan Ling Tian was confused. Since he had lost some of his memories, he could not remember when his cheapskate father left Cloud Continent. Not only that, but he also discovered something extremely terrifying. Although he knew he had a cheapskate father in his memory, he could not remember his cheapskate father's appearance or anything else. Soon after, the familiar voice continued to sound. Since you've already broken through to the innate void restoration stage, then you have the ability to cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic. I've left you a set of Saint-grade martial tactic. I hope it'll be helpful to you. I won't say anything unnecessary. I've already arranged for someone to look for you when you arrive at the Dao Martial Saint Land. He'll bring you to me. His voice stopped abruptly at this point, as if he had been interrupted before he could finish speaking. Duan Ling Tian could tell the voice was indeed cut off abruptly. What's going on? His voice was interrupted at the most critical moment. Duan Ling Tian was frustrated. At the same time, he picked up the voice transmission jade slip in his hand and began to examine it carefully. Soon after, he discovered there were a few cracks on the voice transmission jade slip that were difficult to detect. The cracks on the voice transmission jade slip, could it be that they were caused by me forcefully opening it a few times before? It was easy for Duan Lingtian to figure this out. The inside of the exquisite jade box was filled with hard jade walls. Once the things inside were violently shaken, it would inevitably be damaged. I'm in big trouble now. Father said he's arranged for someone to bring me to see him when I arrive at the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, something's wrong with the voice transmission jade slip at the most critical moment. I don't even know where the person he's arranged is. Since I don't know where the person he's arranged is, I won't be able to see him, and he won't be able to bring me to see him. When Duan Ling Tian revealed a gloomy expression, the corners of his mouth could not help but curl up into a bitter smile. It seems like I won't be able to see my cheapskate father immediately when I arrive at the Dao Martial Saint Land. When Duan Ling Tian thought of this, the bitter smile on his face became even more pronounced. However, Duan Ling Tian quickly regained his composure. He knew very well that since the matter had already been decided, it was useless for him to overthink it. Father said, he left me a set of Saint-grade martial tactic. After Duan Ling Tian returned, he put the voice transmission jade slip in his hand. He looked at the exquisite jade box in his hand. Within the exquisite jade box, besides the voice transmission jade slip, there was only a thick jade slip left. This is the Saint-grade martial tactic Father left me? Duan Lingtian looked at the jade slip in a daze. However, he quickly regained his senses and took the jade slip out of the exquisite jade box. He infused his origin energy into it in an attempt to pry into the mystery inside. However, his origin energy did not resonate with the jade slip at all. Could it be that my cultivation base is not high enough so I can't read the information inside? Duan Lingtian thought to himself. He could figure it out now. The set of Saint-grade martial tactic that his father had left behind in the voice transmission jade slip must be stored in this jade slip. After testing his origin energy, Duan Lingtian tried to infuse his spiritual energy into the jade slip again. At the same time when Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy came into contact with the jade slip, boom! Strands of vast and complicated information fused into his mind and became a part of his memory. All the information seemed to have been engraved in his mind. It was difficult for him to forget it. This is the Saint-grade martial tactic? After roughly reading the information in the jade slip, Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat. This information was a set of martial skills that surpassed heaven-class high-grade martial skills. Naturally, martial tactic was what Cloud Continent called it. In the Dao martial Saintland, it was called the Saint-grade martial tactic. It was extremely helpful to a martial cultivator. It could be said that it was an important part of a martial cultivator's strength. Colossal Aerolite Arrow. Soon after, Duan Lingtian learned the name of the Saint-grade martial tactic. At the same time, he also learned that it was a set of long-range offensive Saint-grade martial tactic. To cultivate this set of Saint-grade martial tactic, apart from the cultivation base of the innate void restoration stage, one must also have a set of Saint weapon bow and arrow. Duan Lingtian learned all this from the Saint-grade martial tactic, Colossal Aerolite Arrow. Saint weapon? Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. I wonder if the quasi-royal grade spirit weapon that's above grade 1 spirit weapons is considered a saint weapon. Bastard! Bastard! The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he began to call out to Wang Ba who was residing in his body. To be more precise, he was calling out to Wang Ba's soul. You're so noisy. Boy, why are you calling me? This time, Wang Ba responded. Based on his tired voice, it was obvious he had just woken up. Wang Ba, what kind of weapon is considered a saint weapon? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. Saint weapon? Don't you have one yourself? Wang Ba said in annoyance. Isn't your sword a human rank primitive saint weapon? Also, the long spear in the hand of the innate void restoration stage guy that you fought with the Devil Seal tablet is also a human rank primitive saint weapon. There's also the Devil Seal tablet. It's a super saint weapon that's above the heaven rank primitive saint weapon. Wang Ba finished his sentence in one breath. Human rank primitive saint weapon? Heaven rank primitive saint weapon? Duan Lingtian was stunned. He could not help but ask curiously, how are the grades of saint weapons categorized? Saint weapons are divided into heaven, earth, and human ranks. They're heaven rank saint weapons, earth rank saint weapons, and human rank saint weapons. Among them, heaven rank saint weapons are the best, and human rank saint weapons are the worst. Whether it's heaven rank saint weapons, earth rank saint weapons, or human rank saint weapons, they're divided into high, intermediate, and low ranks. High rank is the best, and low rank is the worst. Human rank primitive saint weapons are the worst saint weapons. Heaven rank primitive saint weapons are the best saint weapons. Of course, this doesn't include the super saint weapons in the 10 great saint weapons ranking. Super saint weapons are saint weapons that are above the heaven rank primitive saint weapons. The Devil Seal tablet is one of the super saint weapons. Wang Ba continued, since it's a super saint weapon, why didn't you put it away for me? When Duan Lingtian heard Wang Ba's words, he had a better understanding of saint weapons. At the same time, he felt depressed. According to Wang Ba's words, the Devil Seal tablet belonged to him. The Devil Seal tombstone was his to begin with. However, it was thrown away by Wang Ba. Hermph, I told you, I don't like it. Wang Ba snorted. As a devil cultivator, he could not use the Devil Seal tablet even if it was a super saint weapon. Not only could he not use it, but he would also suffer a backlash. Due to this reason, the Devil Seal tablet was no different from trash in his eyes. Why you? You threw it away just because you don't like it? Duan Lingtian was furious when he heard Wang Ba's words. A super saint weapon was gone just like that. It was hard for him not to feel depressed. Wang Ba could not use the super saint weapon, but he could. This was because he was not a devil cultivator. Now, I can only wait until I regain my memory and remember where I left the Devil Seal tablet. Then, I'll go and take it back. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. When he thought of this, he felt much better. According to Wang Ba, when he was devilified by the Devil Seal tablet, he was fighting an innate void restoration stage martial cultivator. In the end, he did not take the Devil Seal tablet with him when he left. An innate void restoration stage martial cultivator was also known as an Emperor Wu powerhouse on Cloud Continent. Duan Lingtian was confident that he would be able to take the Devil Seal tablet back from the Emperor Wu powerhouse in the future. After regaining his senses, Duan Lingtian relaxed his body and allowed Yang Hui, the spirit profound Emperor Wu, to bring him north. At the same time, He read the information about the colossal aerolite arrow in his mind. The colossal aerolite arrow was a set of Saint-grade martial tactic. Its power was far beyond any of the martial techniques that he had mastered. It could pierce through thousands of steps without missing a target. This was the colossal aerolite arrow. If I want to cultivate this colossal aerolite arrow, I'll have to break through to the Emperor Wu stage first. Apart from that, I'll also have to refine a set of Saint-grade bow and arrows. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. According to the memory that I've recovered, as long as I have the materials, I can refine a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon now. The sword in my hand is a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon. Apart from that, there seems to be a spirit weapon that's even more powerful than a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon in my spatial ring. I think it's called a royal grade spirit weapon. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he quietly took out a sword from his spatial ring. This sword was completely dim and lusterless, as if it had returned to its original state. This sword had indeed returned to its original state because it was not as simple as it looked. It was a royal grade spirit sword. In other words, it was a royal grade spirit sword. Once it was used, it could increase one's strength by 120%. Bastard, can you tell the grade of this sword? Duan Lingtian asked Wang Ba again. Brat, are you done yet? Isn't this a human rank mediocre saint weapon? Wang Ba's voice resonated. Initially, he was a little impatient. However, he could not help but exclaim when he saw the royal grade spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hand. Brat, are you sure you're from the mortal continent? Wang Ba's voice resonated again. It was filled with suspicion. He had no choice but to be suspicious. Chapter 1264. It's only a human rank mediocre saint weapon? Duan Lingtian was disappointed when he heard the first part of Wang Ba's words. However, he completely ignored the second part of Wang Ba's words. According to my memory, I can only refine a human rank mediocre saint weapon like this even if I break through to the Emperor Wu stage. Duan Lingtian shook his head and sighed as he looked at the royal grade spirit sword in his hand before he put it away. A quasi-royal grade spirit weapon on Cloud Continent was equivalent to a human rank primitive saint weapon in the Dao martial saint land. A royal grade spirit weapon was equivalent to a human rank mediocre saint weapon. At this moment, Duan Lingtian had a certain understanding of the saint weapons in the Dao martial saint land. Since I can only cultivate the colossal aerolite arrow after I break through to the Emperor Wu stage, I'll refine the bow and arrows after I break through to the Emperor Wu stage. Duan Lingtian made up his mind. He wanted to refine a set of royal grade spirit bows and arrows to cultivate the colossal aerolite arrow. A royal grade spirit weapon was also a human rank mediocre saint weapon. It could be used to cultivate the colossal aerolite arrow. As time passed by, Duan Lingtian completely retracted his thoughts. He no longer thought about anything else as he cultivated the Nine Dragons War Sovereign technique and comprehended the two profundities. His strength was increasing with every passing moment. Although the speed of improvement was not fast, the improvement was not small as time went by. Duan Lingtian was the only exception. The other 9 people, including Zhou Di, Song Ting, and Zhong Un, the 3 Spirit Profound Emperor Wu's direct disciples, were also cultivating with their eyes closed. Perhaps this was one of the reasons why the Spirit Profound Emperor Wu brought the group of people to the Hidden Fog Island with his own strength. He wanted to give them more time to cultivate and comprehend in peace so that they could improve their strength as much as possible. After all, the purpose of the trip to the Hidden Fog Island was for the Hidden Fog Martial Competition. In the Hidden Fog Martial Competition, the performance of the people he brought would affect his reputation and Ling Xian Peak's reputation. He had no choice but to care. It had to be said that as an existence at the 4th level of the Emperor Wu realm, the speed of the Spirit Profound Emperor Wu Yonghui was very fast. It only took him 10 days to bring Duan Lingtian and the others to pass through the northern area of the inner land of Cloud Continent that was shrouded in snow and entered the Ruo Shui River. The Ruo Shui River surrounded the inner land of Cloud Continent. It was also the dividing line between the inner land and the outer land of Cloud Continent. The Ruo Shui River in the north was snowing heavily, but the surface of the Ruo Shui River was as calm as before. There was no ice, and there was no violent turbulence. With Yang Hui's speed, it only took him a few days to bring Duan Lingtian and the others across the Ruoshui River and entered the northern outer continent of Cloud Continent. The northern outer land was undoubtedly even colder. The heavy snow continued to fall mercilessly. However, when it reached the top of the group of people led by Yang Hui, it seemed to be blocked by an invisible force. The white snow that landed on the invisible force was constantly pushed away. However, before it was pushed away, the pure white snow still piled up into a thick layer. The invisible force on the group of people looked like a gigantic eggshell when it was set off by the falling white snow. This was the force of Yang Hui, the spirit profound Emperor Wu. It was the force that guided Duan Lingtian and the others to move forward. Apart from guiding them forward, this force also blocked the wind and snow completely. No matter how cold and harsh the environment outside was, it could not affect them. Half a month later, the spirit profound Emperor Wu Yang Hui brought Duan Lingtian and the others to the border of the northern outer land of Cloud Continent. When they arrived, the snow and ice stopped, and the weather became warmer. Standing in the air, all they could see was a vast and boundless ocean. Looking from afar, the ocean and the sky were the same color. At this moment, Yang Hui intentionally slowed down. "We're at the beach." The group of people, including Duan Lingtian, woke up one after another. They temporarily stopped cultivating and focused on the boundless ocean in front of them. Even someone at the first level of Emperor Wu stage would need half a year to leave Cloud Continent and head to the Hidden Fog Island, one of the overseas Saint Islands. Duan Lingtian recalled what the spirit profound Emperor Wu said earlier. However, with the spirit profound Emperor Wu's speed, it's much faster than someone at the first level of Emperor Wu stage. We should be able to reach the Hidden Fog Island in a few months at most. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. The group of people looked at the boundless ocean in front of them and lost their interest. The ocean in front of them seemed to have never changed. There was nothing new about it, causing the group of people to lose interest immediately. "Let's continue our journey." Upon seeing this, Spirit Profound Emperor Wu Yang Hui said nonchalantly and continued to lead the group of people to the north. He had stopped earlier because he wanted to use another way to tell the group that they were leaving Cloud Continent soon. At this moment, under Yang Hui's lead, the group of people officially left Cloud Continent and entered the boundless ocean. Their destination was the Hidden Fog Island. "Master." After leaving Cloud Continent for some distance, Yang Hui's third direct disciple, Zhong'an, could not help but ask, "I heard that there's an ocean that completely separates the overseas Saint Islands from Cloud Continent after leaving Cloud Continent for some distance. The heaven and earth energy there is completely different from the heaven and earth energy in the ocean around Cloud Continent. The heaven and earth energy in the overseas Saint Islands won't form the heaven and earth phenomenon. Is that true?" Zhong'an looked at Yang Hui with bright eyes when he reached the end of his sentence. "It won't form the heaven and earth phenomenon?" Upon hearing Zhong'an's words, the group of people, including Zhou Di and Song Ting, shifted their gaze to Yang Hui. Their eyes were filled with curiosity as well. Even Duan Lingtian was looking at Yang Hui. "According to the message my cheapskate father left behind in the voice transmission Jade Slip, he only said that when Martial, Dao, and Devil cultivators fight in the Dao Martial Saintland, they won't mobilize the heaven and earth energy to form the heaven and earth phenomenon." Duan Lingtian's heart jolted. "But according to Zhong'an, as long as we leave the ocean outside Cloud Continent and arrive at the overseas Saint Islands, the heaven and earth energy there won't form the heaven and earth phenomenon?" The heaven and earth phenomenon was formed when a martial artist from Cloud Continent attacked and mobilized the heaven and earth energy. On Cloud Continent, anyone could know a martial artist's actual strength through the heaven and earth phenomenon formed when he attacked and mobilized the heaven and earth energy. For example, the strength of the ancient mammoths, ancient horned dragons, and ancient black dragons was comparable to the strength of the ancient mammoths, ancient horned dragons, and ancient black dragons. They would all appear in the form of the heaven and earth phenomenon, also known as the silhouette. However, after leaving Cloud Continent and entering the overseas Saint Islands, such a heaven and earth phenomenon would no longer appear? If that's really the case, the heaven and earth phenomenon can be considered as one of Cloud Continent's characteristics. The moment Duan Lingtian thought to himself, he could not help but think to himself, "That's right." Yang Hui nodded in the face of Zhong'an's question. However, there's still a distance from here to the ocean. With the speed I'm bringing all of you along, we should be able to cross the ocean in a month's time. Master, can you wake us up a month later and let us see it? Zhong'an asked with bright eyes. Sure. Yang Hui glanced at Duan Lingtian first. When he saw that Duan Lingtian seemed to be interested as well, he nodded. Zhong'an's face was instantly filled with excitement. The remaining 9 people, including Duan Lingtian, Zhou Di, and Song Ting, also had a look of anticipation on their faces as they looked forward to the arrival of a month later. Ever since they were born, they had lived on Cloud Continent where they could mobilize the heaven and earth energy to form the heaven and earth phenomenon when they attacked. To them, the heaven and earth phenomenon had long become a part of their lives. However, now that they found out that no matter how they attacked in the ocean outside Cloud Continent, they would not be able to mobilize the heaven and earth energy to form the heaven and earth phenomenon. Everyone wanted to test it out to see if it was true. If they did not test it out for themselves, it would only be a rumor to them and would not be taken seriously. In the next month, the 10 of them, including Duan Lingtian, cultivated their respective cultivation methods calmly and comprehended their respective profundities to improve their strength. A month's time passed by very quickly. At this moment, Yang Hui, the spirit profound Emperor Wu, who was leading Duan Lingtian and the others, slowed down until he finally came to a stop. Duan Lingtian and Zhou Di were the first to wake up when Yang Hui called out to them. Subsequently, Zhou Di woke up his 2 junior brothers, Song Ting and Zhong'an. The rest of them were also woken up by Zhong, and Duan Lingtian stood in the air and looked around. All he could see was a vast ocean. The ocean and the sky merged together, making him feel as though he was in a blue world. The white clouds in the sky were the only decorations in this blue world. Whoosh! Suddenly, a gust of wind blew past. Yang Hui withdrew his energy. Waves of sea breeze blew past, causing everyone's robes to flutter loudly. At the same time, the fishy smell of the ocean entered everyone's noses along with the sea breeze, causing them to smell the rich scent of the ocean. Master, have we left the ocean? Zhou Di looked at Yang Hui and asked respectfully. Yes. Yang Hui nodded nonchalantly under everyone's watchful eyes. At this moment, everyone's eyes, including Duan Lingtian, lit up. At the same time, waves of origin energy began to rise from their bodies. It was as though they had transformed into balls of milky white flames that soared into the sky. Duan Lingtian's origin energy surged. After a while, he lifted his head and looked above him. Above the void, there was only silence. The heaven and earth energy did not seem to be moving at all. There really isn't any heaven and earth energy. If there isn't any heaven and earth energy, let alone the heaven and earth phenomenon, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. Although Duan Lingtian was mentally prepared, he could not help but be shocked. After withdrawing his origin energy, Duan Lingtian shifted his gaze to the others. He realized that if it was not for his spiritual energy, he would not have been able to see through their cultivation bases. Chapter 1265. Nothing is too strange in the colossal world. After leaving Cloud Continent, I can't see the heaven and earth phenomenon formed by the heaven and earth energy anymore. After confirming it, Duan Lingtian could not help but exclaim to himself. Just like the others, he was used to fighting alongside the heaven and earth phenomenon. Now that he had left Cloud Continent without the heaven and earth phenomenon, he was not used to it. Duan Lingtian was not the only one who was shocked. Even the 9 people, including Zhou Di, Song Ting, and Zhong'an, who were Emperor Wu's direct disciples, were shocked when they regained their senses. This is amazing. After leaving Cloud Continent and coming to the overseas world, the heaven and earth energy didn't form the heaven and earth phenomenon. In other words, no matter how powerful one is in the overseas world, one won't easily expose their strength due to the appearance of the heaven and earth phenomenon. What a magical overseas world! Many people whispered among themselves. They could not help but exclaim. The 10 people, including Duan Lingtian, only regained their senses after a while. Each of them felt as though they had entered a brand new world. This brand new world shocked them from the bottom of their hearts. Soon, Spirit Profound Emperor Wu, Yang Hui, made his move again. A majestic and vast invisible energy swept out from his body and guided Duan Lingtian and the rest to continue their journey. Overseas Saint Island, Hidden Fog Island. That was the destination of their trip. Their goal was to participate in the Hidden Fog Martial competition held on the Hidden Fog Island. At that time, they would encounter many powerhouses from Cloud Continent like them. With our speed, how long will it take to reach the Hidden Fog Island? Duan Lingtian asked curiously as he looked at Spirit Profound Emperor Wu, Yang Hui. About 2 months, Yang Hui replied.
Yes.
Upon hearing that, Duan Lingtian nodded in realization. Subsequently, he closed his eyes again. Although he seemed to be resting, he had actually begun to cultivate and comprehend his 2 profundities. Just as Duan Lingtian and the rest were getting closer to the Hidden Fog Island, the inner land of Cloud Continent was not peaceful either. Originally, only the southern area of the inner land of Cloud Continent was stirred up by the Lingtian sect. Subsequently, the people from the inner land of Cloud Continent discovered that the ancient Han clan that had always kept a low profile had also joined in. They were even willing to be Lingtian sect's lackey. The powerhouses of the Han clan went all out and swept across the inner land of the Cloud Continent. It only took them 2 to 3 months to make more than 80% of the first-rate forces in the inner land willingly submit to the Lingtian sect. For a time, the name of the Lingtian sect spread far and wide, and it became a household name in the inner land of Cloud Continent. It was no longer limited to the southern region of the inland. It was worth mentioning that when the powerhouses from the Han clan were willing to be the pawns of Lingtian sect and intimidate many first-rate forces in the inner land for the Lingtian sect, another ancient clan had intervened. According to the ancient clan, as a reclusive ancient clan, the Han clan should not have caused such a big commotion on the Cloud Continent. Just when many people thought the 2 ancient clans were going to fight, the ancient clan suddenly gave in. Not only did it give in, but it was even willing to be the pawns of the Lingtian sect along with the Han clan. For a time, the name of the Lingtian sect spread across the entire inner land of the Cloud Continent. It even spread to the outer land at an extremely fast speed. In the history of the Cloud Continent, there had never been such an exaggerated sect. I heard that the Lingtian sect was originally a low-level first-rate force in an inconspicuous corner in the southern region of the inner land of the Cloud Continent. It was transformed from a low-level first-rate force called the Yin-Yang sect. I've heard about it too. However, I never thought that this force would rise so quickly and so exaggeratedly. The 2 ancient clans on the Cloud Continent are existences that even the Emperor Wu powerhouses and the Demon Emperor powerhouses on the Cloud Continent are afraid of. They're actually willing to be the pawns of the Yin-Yang sect and follow it everywhere. How unbelievable! I really don't know why the 2 ancient clans are willing to be the Yin-Yang sect's pawns. After all, even the Emperor Wu powerhouses and the Demon Emperor powerhouses on the Cloud Continent might not be able to make the 2 ancient clans submit to them. Similar discussions were spreading everywhere in the inner land of the Cloud Continent. Anyone who heard of the Lingtian sect would be interested in the Lingtian sect. There were even many talented martial artists who wanted to join the Lingtian sect. The Lingtian sect was a powerful force that could command the 2 ancient clans. It was enough to make anyone yearn for it. Another half a month went by. At this time, all of the well-known first-rate forces in the inner land of the Cloud Continent had become the vassals of the Lingtian sect. Apart from having to hand over a large amount of origin stones every year, they also had to give away some genius disciples. At the same time, the Lingtian sect moved their base to the central area of the inner land of the Cloud Continent. It was a taller mountain peak. This mountain peak was bigger and wider than the previous Lingtian peak. This mountain peak was originally the base of an upper-class first-rate force in the inner land of the Cloud Continent. Since the acting sect leader of the Lingtian sect, Han Shuanai, took a liking to it, the Han clan took it for themselves and gave it to Han Shuanai and the Lingtian sect. From now on, this will be the new Lingtian peak. After the Lingtian sect moved to this new base, Han Shuanai ordered everyone from the Lingtian sect to gather and announce calmly. Her voice was not loud, but it was clearly heard by everyone present. At this moment, apart from the 3 little fellows by Han Shuanai's side who maintained a calm expression, the rest of the people were overjoyed. They could not suppress their excitement. Of course, at the same time, the group of people looked at Han Shuanai with reverence. It was reverence that came from the bottom of their hearts. It was this yellow-clad young girl who looked like she was only 15 or 16 years old, who led the three little monsters by her side to defeat the first-rate forces in the southern area of the Cloud Continent. Then, she even made the ancient Han clan work for the Ling Tian sect. That was not all. When another ancient clan wanted to stop the Han clan from working for the Ling Tian sect, it was also this young girl who stepped in. Not only did she help the Han clan, but she also made the ancient clan work for her and the Ling Tian sect. Although they didn't know the exact process, the result made them all feel inexplicably shocked. What's the background of the sect leader's younger sister? Not only is she powerful, but she also has three little fellows with powerful abilities by her side. That's not all. The most ridiculous thing is that she can even make the two great ancient clans on the Cloud Continent work for her. This is unbelievable. Many people were shocked, and a myriad of thoughts ran through their minds. Even Xiong Quan, although he had long realized that Han Shuanai was not simple, he did not expect it to be so ridiculous. She's just a little girl, but she has such ability. I'm afraid there's no one in the entire Cloud Continent who can compare to her. Who the hell is she? Xiong Quan was filled with curiosity about Han Shuanai's identity and background. However, no matter what, the Ling Tian sect had become a top force on the Cloud Continent. It was like the sun in the sky. A force that could make the two great ancient clans work for them was enough to make anyone fearful. Recently, most of the Emperor Wu powerhouses and Demon Emperor powerhouses on the Cloud Continent left the Cloud Continent with their people and headed to the Hidden Fog Island to participate in the Hidden Fog Martial Competition. Otherwise, more people would be inexplicably shocked by what happened to the Ling Tian sect. Even the Emperor Wu powerhouses and Demon Emperor powerhouses were no exception. Right now, our Ling Tian sect is already standing at the peak of the Cloud Continent. However, our sect leader is still missing. Han Shuanai looked at the group of people in front of her and said slowly, "Therefore I order. From today onward, all of our Ling Tian sect's focus will be shifted to the search for our sect leader. From today onward, the Ling Tian sect will offer a reward. Anyone who helps us find our sect leader, Duan Ling Tian, will be rewarded with 1,000 Supreme Grade Origin Stones." When Han Shuanai reached the end of her sentence, she added, "This reward is also valid for our Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples, 1,000 Supreme Grade Origin Stones." Upon hearing Han Shuanai's words, many people's eyes lit up. It was as though they could see 1,000 Supreme Grade Origin Stones waving at them. 1,000 Supreme Grade Origin Stones was enough to make most people go crazy. On top of that, I'll ask the two great ancient clans to help us find our Ling Tian sect leader. Han Shuanai continued. The moment Han Shuanai's words left her mouth, many people looked anxious. It was as though they were afraid the two great ancient clans would snatch the reward that belonged to them. The 1,000 Supreme Grade Origin Stones. The news of Han Shuanai's reward quickly spread from the Ling Tian sect. Ling Tian sect was looking for their sect leader, Duan Ling Tian. Anyone who provided clues to help the Ling Tian sect find Duan Ling Tian would be rewarded with 1,000 Supreme Grade Origin Stones. For a time, everyone who heard about the reward went crazy. 1,000 Supreme Grade Origin Stones. Even the first-rate forces in the inner land of the Cloud Continent could not come up with so many Supreme Grade Origin Stones in such a short time. One could imagine the value of so many Supreme Grade Origin Stones. Just as the Ling Tian sect was frantically searching for Duan Ling Tian, Han Shuanai temporarily left the Ling Tian sect. She went to the two great ancient clans' encampments. On that day, she left the two great ancient clans again. At that moment, the two great ancient clans began to send people to search for Duan Ling Tian, the sect leader of the Ling Tian sect. They did not dare to be negligent. Ling Xian Peak was not far from the Ling Tian sect's new encampment. Ever since the owner of Ling Xian Peak, Ling Xian Emperor Wu, left with 10 of his most outstanding subordinates, the atmosphere in Ling Xian Peak was not as good as before. It had always been lifeless. It was only until the news of the reward from the Ling Tian sect spread to Ling Xian Peak that Ling Xian Peak became lively again. Chapter 1266. Ling Tian sect? Duan Ling Tian sect? In Ling Xian Peak, two young men who looked exactly the same looked at each other. They could see the shock and astonishment in each other's eyes. Nan Gongchun, do you think the sect leader that Ling Tian sect is looking for, Duan Ling Tian sect, is the Duan Ling Tian sect that we know? After the red-clothed young man swallowed a mouthful of saliva, he looked at the blue-clothed young man and asked with a dull expression. The time that the sect leader of Ling Tian sect, Duan Ling Tian sect, went missing, it's almost the same time that we met Duan Ling Tian. Moreover, when we met Duan Ling Tian had lost his memory. The blue-clad young man with a cold expression deduced in an orderly manner. Gulp. The red-clothed young man once again swallowed a mouthful of saliva. After a long while, he finally said with some difficulty, "Your deduction really matches. If that's the case, then the sect leader that Ling Tian sect is looking for, Duan Ling Tian sect, is the Duan Ling Tian sect that we know." When the red-clad young man reached the end of his sentence, his face was filled with shock and astonishment. Ling Tian sect. With the help of the two great ancient clans, it only took them a few months to wipe out all the first-rate forces in the inner land of Cloud Continent. Then, the red-clad young man gasped and muttered, "Isn't Duan Ling Tian sect a little too terrifying?" Although Duan Ling Tian sect is powerful, it's not enough to intimidate the two great ancient clans. The blue-clad young man said coolly, "Moreover, Duan Ling Tian sect has already left Ling Xian Peak and Cloud Continent with Spirit Profound Emperor Wu. In other words, the commotion caused by Ling Tian sect has nothing to do with Duan Ling Tian sect. No matter what, we should make a trip to Ling Tian sect. Once we confirm that the Duan Ling Tian sect we know is the sect leader that Ling Tian sect is looking for, Duan Ling Tian sect. At that time, we can greet Ling Tian sect." The red-clad young man said, "Let's go." The blue-clad young man was a man of few words. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already disappeared. The red-clad young man quickly followed him and left Ling Xian Peak together. The twin brothers who left Ling Xian Peak were none other than Nan Gongchun and Nan Gongyi. After they left Ling Xian Peak, they headed straight to Ling Tian sect's encampment, Ling Tian Peak. Ling Tian sect's encampment was very close to Ling Xian Peak after their family moved. It only took a few days for Nan Gong and his brother to arrive at Ling Tian Peak. However, they were stopped by a few Ling Tian sect's disciples who were patrolling the area. Ling Tian sect's encampment. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter. The Ling Tian sect's disciple who was the leader looked at Nan Gong and his brother and said nonchalantly, "We want to see the person who's in charge of Ling Tian sect now." Nan Gongyi said at a speed that was neither fast nor slow, "Our Ling Tian sect's acting sect leader isn't someone who anyone can meet." The Ling Tian sect's disciple who was the leader said, "What if I say I know where the Duan Ling Tian sect is?" Nan Gongyi asked again. Boom. Nan Gongyi's words were like a bolt from the blue. It shocked the few Ling Tian sect's disciples until they regained their senses after a while. You said you know our sect leader?" The few Ling Tian sect's disciples' eyes were a little dazed. The Ling Tian sect's disciple who was the leader was a tall, middle-aged man. Now that he heard Nan Gongyi's words, there was a strange gleam in the depth of his eyes. "Humph." Suddenly, the middle-aged man's face sank, and he grunted in a low voice. "Since our Ling Tian sect issued the bounty, many people said they knew the location of our Ling Tian sect's sect leader. However, the news was all false. Among them, some people said they wanted to see our Ling Tian sect's acting sect leader, but their original intention was to sneak into our Ling Tian sect with ill intentions. You said you know where our Ling Tian sect's sect leader is? Why should we believe you?" As the middle-aged man finished speaking, he asked indifferently, "So long as I see the person in charge of your Ling Tian sect, I'll naturally make him believe me." Nan Gongyi said. On the way to the Ling Tian sect, they found out about some things and found out about the origin of the sect leader of Ling Tian sect, Duan Ling Tian sect. He came from the southern outer continent of Cloud Continent. The southern outer continent was the common hometown of them and the Duan Ling Tian sect's sect leader they knew. Due to this reason, they confirmed it at that time. The sect leader of Ling Tian sect, Duan Ling Tian sect, was the Duan Ling Tian sect's sect leader they knew. They were the same person. However, Duan Lingtian's sect leader did not know what happened and suddenly lost his memory. He even forgot his own name until he met them by chance. After that, they went to Ling Xian Peak with Duan Lingtian's sect leader. Although the three of them did not become Emperor Wu's disciples or followers in Ling Xian Peak, the treatment they received in Ling Xian Peak was not inferior to the three direct disciples of Emperor Wu under Emperor Wu. The two of them were able to enjoy all this because of Duan Lingtian's sect leader. Because of this, they sighed in their hearts more than once. As long as it's gold, it will shine no matter where it goes. Follow me. The leader of the Lingtian sect's disciples, the tall middle-aged man, looked at Nangong Yi deeply before he glanced at Nangong Chun and said nonchalantly, "All of you, continue to patrol." Before he brought Nangong Chun and his brother away, the middle-aged man looked at the other Ling Tian sect's disciples and ordered, "Yes." The few Ling Tian sect's disciples accepted the order respectfully and left immediately. "Both of you, please." After the middle-aged man called out to Nangong Chun and his brother, he took the lead and flew out. However, the direction he flew was opposite to Ling Tian Peak. Nangong Yi immediately frowned and asked, "Where are you bringing us?" "Both of you might not know. Our Ling Tian sect's acting sect leader is usually not on Ling Tian Peak. She's usually cultivating in a valley that's thousands of miles east of Ling Tian Peak," the middle-aged man said. "So that's how it is." Nangong Yi came to a realization. Then, he and Nangong Chun followed the middle-aged man and headed east. However, when they were thousands of miles east, Nangong Chen and his brother realized that they had entered an endless desert. They looked around and could not even see a mountain, let alone a valley. This was a place where even birds would not shit. You lied to us." At that moment, Nangong Chun and his brother finally reacted. Nangong Yi looked at the middle-aged man angrily and shouted coldly, "Both of you, I'm not lying to you." The middle-aged man stood at the side and looked at Nangong Chun and his brother nonchalantly. He said, "I'm just fulfilling my duty. Only when I'm certain that you know where our Ling Tian sect leader is, can I bring you to see our acting sect leader of Ling Tian sect." Upon hearing the middle-aged man's words, Nangong Yi's expression softened a little. "Since that's the case, there's no need for you to do that. We're friends with your Ling Tian sect leader, Duan Ling Tian. Then, Nangong Yi told the middle-aged man about his encounter with Duan Ling Tian who had lost his memory. At the same time, he told him about Duan Ling Tian's characteristics. "It's really the sect leader." The middle-aged man's eyes lit up immediately. His breathing quickened. At the same time, he looked at Nangong Yi and asked anxiously, "Where's our sect leader?" "You just have to confirm that the person we're talking about is your Ling Tian sect leader." Nangong Yi said nonchalantly, "As for where he is, I'll naturally tell your Ling Tian sect's acting sect leader in detail when I see him." At that moment, he became more cautious. The Ling Tian sect's disciple in front of him gave him a feeling that he had to be on guard against him. "If you don't tell me this, I won't bring you to see our Ling Tian sect's acting sect leader." The middle-aged man shook his head and said, "Perhaps you know our Ling Tian sect's missing sect leader, but you might not know where he is. I have to remind you that our acting sect leader is very busy. If you see her and don't tell me where the sect leader is, she'll kill you in a fit of rage." "You don't have to worry about that," Nangong Yi said confidently. Seeing how confident Nangong Yi was, a trace of undetectable greed rose in the depths of the middle-aged man's eyes. However, he still pretended to be calm as he said, "Both of you, I think it's best if you tell me where our Ling Tian sect leader is. Otherwise, I won't be able to answer to the acting sect leader." "Humph, you're finally showing your foxtail. I think you're the one who's greedy. You want the reward of 1,000 supreme-grade origin stones, right?" From the beginning until the end, Nangong Yi, who was standing next to Nangong Yi with a cold expression on his face, snorted coldly as he mocked the middle-aged man. "If we don't see your Ling Tian sect's acting sect leader, we won't tell you where the Duan Ling Tian is." Nangong Yi also looked at the middle-aged man cautiously. At that moment, he was completely certain that the middle-aged man in front of him had the intention of finding out where the Duan Ling Tian was from them. Then, He would go and claim the reward of 1,000 supreme-grade origin stones from the Ling Tian sect. Ha 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 ha. When the middle-aged man heard the words of the Nangong brothers, he could not help but laugh out loud. After a long while, he finally stopped laughing. I can't believe both of you still managed to find out. The middle-aged man looked at the two Nangong brothers and smirked. However, do both of you have any other choice now? If you don't tell me where our Ling Tian sect leader is, I'll kill both of you immediately. When the middle-aged man reached the end of his sentence, his eyes gleamed coldly with killing intent. We're friends of your sect leader. Do you dare to kill us? Nangongyi's face turned grave. In this godforsaken place, how would the sect leader know even if I kill both of you? The middle-aged man said nonchalantly, You're just a mere Ling Tian sect's disciple, and you dare to say that you'll kill us? What a joke. Nangongyi snorted softly. At the same time, the origin energy on his body skyrocketed. The sky above his head trembled as the heaven and earth energy stirred and gathered into the heaven and earth phenomenon, revealing his 6th-level martial monarch stage cultivation base. The 6th-level martial monarch stage is indeed shocking. Unfortunately, I'm not a disciple of Ling Tian sect, but an elder of Ling Tian sect. Chapter 1267. Whoosh. As the heaven and earth energy above the middle-aged man's head stirred, the heaven and earth phenomenon appeared. An ancient black dragon silhouette and 1,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared. 8th-level martial monarch stage. The scene before their eyes caused the Nangong brothers to turn pale. They did not expect the other party to be so powerful. It was no wonder he dared to bring them to such a secluded place. Soon after, the Nangong brothers began to fight with the middle-aged man. Even the most powerful Nangong brothers, Nangong Chun, was only at the 7th-level martial monarch stage. He was slightly inferior to the other party when he unleashed his full strength. Fortunately, Nangongyi was there to assist them. However, as time went by, the Nangong brothers were in a dangerous situation. Otherwise, they would have been dead by now if the other party wanted to get information about Duan Lingtian's whereabouts from them. Naturally, they knew this very well. Even if they told them about Duan Lingtian's whereabouts, the other party would not let them go. They were well aware of this. Flee. In the end, the Nangong brothers chose to flee. Trying to flee? The middle-aged man sneered in disdain when he saw the Nangong brothers fleeing. In his opinion, the two of them would not be able to defeat him even if they joined forces. It was impossible for them to escape from under his nose. However, when he caught up to them, he soon realized that was not the case. The speed of the blue-clad young man's movement martial skill was even faster than his. Even when he was carrying the red-clad young man, his speed was not inferior to his. Whoosh! Nangong Chun took the lead and fled with Nangongyi. Although his speed was slightly slower, he was not inferior to the middle-aged man who was chasing after them. Fortunately, my movement martial skill is much better than his. Nangong Chun still had a lingering fear in his heart. Just as the Nangong brothers were being chased. In Ling Xian Peak, a few Ling Xian Peak Emperor Wu's disciples who were in charge of intelligence gathered in a secluded cave and whispered to each other. According to my various deductions, we can basically confirm that Lord Ling Tian is the sect leader that the Ling Tian sect is searching for. One of them said, Now that Lord Emperor Wu and Lord Ling Tian are not here, even Lord Ling Tian's two friends have left Ling Xian Peak. What should we do? Go to the sect Ling sect and reveal Lord Ling Tian's whereabouts? Another person asked, What? You want those 1,000 supreme origin stones? Someone sneered. Ling Tian sect leader. As for the Ling Tian sect, Ling Tian Ling Tian Ling Tian. Sect, and let him. Is. The last person said. The other three people agreed with the last person's words. If that's the case, we'll put this matter aside for now. We'll explain to Lord Emperor Wu and Lord Ling Tian when they return. All right, it's decided then. The few Ling Xian Peak Emperor Wu's disciples who were in charge of intelligence decided to keep their mouths shut about Duan Ling Tian. They would wait until the spirit profound Emperor Wu and Duan Ling Tian returned. Due to their decision and the fact that the Nangong brothers were being chased, Han Shu and I, and the people from the Ling Tian sect only found out about Duan Lingtian's whereabouts later on. Duan Lingtian was unaware of all of this. Currently, he was being brought to the hidden fog island by the spirit profound Emperor Wu. They were getting closer and closer to the hidden fog island. Duan Lingtian, who was being brought to the hidden fog island by the spirit profound Emperor Wu, woke up from his cultivation. When he lifted his head, he saw layers of fog in the distance. The fog covered his eyes and completely blocked the view in front of him. We'll reach the hidden fog island in about 10 days once we enter the area shrouded in fog. Spirit profound Emperor Wu, Yang Hui, immediately noticed Duan Lingtian had woken up. 10 days? That's fast. Duan Lingtian nodded. Overseas Saint Island, Hidden Fog Island. It would only take about 10 days to reach the destination. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's mood was more or less affected. After all, this was his first time leaving Cloud Continent in his life. We've been away from Cloud Continent for so long. Did any demon beasts attack us along the way? Duan Lingtian asked Yang Hui. He was curious about this. How is that possible? Yang Hui said, there were at least 10 demon beasts with a cultivation base at the Demon Emperor stage who wanted to attack us along the way. I killed 3 of them, and the rest retreated in fear. Retreated in fear? Just when Duan Lingtian was stunned, he noticed the calm ocean in front of them suddenly shook. A gigantic creature left the ocean at lightning speed and rose into the sky, blocking their path. It was a demon beast the size of a small hill. It stood there and gave off an immense pressure. This demon beast was completely black. Its body was covered with regular scales. Its 4 sharp claws were like an eagle's claws. From afar, it looked like a gigantic bear standing there. Even its head was similar to a bear's. This is a Stygian scale bear, one of the demon beasts unique to the overseas Saint Island. This demon beast strength is comparable to a first-level Emperor Wu stage martial artist. Its brute force is amazing. However, although it has the strength of a first-level Demon Emperor stage martial artist, it's different from an ordinary first-level Demon Emperor stage martial artist. The Stygian scale bear's intelligence is extremely low, and it can't transform into a human. Yang Hui's words entered Duan Lingtian's ears when he was studying the demon beast that was the size of a small hill. Stygian scale bear? Duan Lingtian nodded in realization. His eyes narrowed suddenly. This was because he noticed the Stygian scale bear was moving. Its mountain-like body was charging towards them. Its speed was so fast that it was not affected by its seemingly cumbersome body at all. This is a Stygian scale bear. I encountered one half a month ago, and I killed it with 1 strike. Brother Lingtian, do you want to try? Due to its low intelligence, it can't transform into a human. This Stygian scale bear is different from ordinary demon emperors. It doesn't know how to use spirit weapons. Yang Hui did not seem to be nervous when he saw the Stygian scale bear charging towards them. Instead, he looked at Duan Lingtian. First-level demon emperor stage? Doesn't know how to use spirit weapons? In Duan Lingtian's memory, let alone demon emperors, even demon monarchs and void transformation stage demon beasts who could transform into humans were no different from humans. When they fought, they would also use spirit weapons. Leave it to me. Duan Lingtian moved away from the protective shield formed by Yang Hui's energy and charged towards the Stygian scale bear. In his opinion, a first-level demon emperor stage demon beast like the Stygian scale bear that did not know how to use spirit weapons was not a threat to him at all. In fact, he was confident he could kill it with 1 punch without using any spirit weapons. Dragon soaring 9 heavens. Duan Lingtian's body moved. The 5-colored energy on his body skyrocketed and formed a rainbow as he charged towards the Stygian scale bear, as though he had transformed into a 5-colored divine dragon. Roar! At this moment, the Stygian scale bear noticed Duan Lingtian, who was charging towards it. It lifted its head and roared loudly. Its sharp claws whistled as the wind whistled. Its sharp claws were as fast as lightning as it charged towards Duan Lingtian, who was charging towards it. Faced with the Stygian scale bear's sharp claws, Duan Lingtian had no intention of dodging. Instead, he charged forward calmly as though he was willing to put his head under someone else's guillotine. Even Yang Hui, who had seen many things in his life, was shocked when he saw this. Courage comes from skill. Such a thought popped up in his mind for no reason. Seeing that the Stygian scale bear's sharp claws were about to land on Duan Lingtian's body, Duan Lingtian's face tensed up slightly. In the next moment, Nine Dragons' protection. In an instant, the origin energy in Duan Lingtian's body stirred and left his body without reservation. It merged perfectly with the two profundities that he had comprehended. Fused profundity. Sword profundity. Duan Lingtian's body emitted waves of five-colored energy with a sharp aura. When the Stygian scale bear's sharp claws were inches away, it transformed into five-colored divine dragons that circled around Duan Lingtian's body rapidly. Almost at the same time, a layer of five-colored light shield appeared around Duan Lingtian's body. The Stygian scale bear's sharp claws that contained extremely terrifying energy finally landed on the shield. Boom, 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 boom. The Stygian scale bear's sharp claws landed on the five-colored light shield around Duan Lingtian's body. In an instant, a series of thunderous explosions rang out, accompanied by waves of shock waves that swept out in all directions. With Duan Lingtian and the Stygian scale bear as the center, the shock waves spread out and swept out. In addition to the surrounding air being sucked out, even the surface of the sea beneath their feet was pushed down by the shock wave. When the surface of the sea was pushed down, the seawater was pushed out in all directions, causing a huge wave to form. Roar! When the shock wave gradually weakened, the Stygian scale bear roared again. This time, the roar was filled with extreme anger. This anger originated from Duan Lingtian. Seeing that Duan Lingtian was unscathed after being hit by its attack, the Stygian scale bear was completely enraged. It raised its pair of sharp claws again, as if it wanted to attack again. What? You're not convinced? Seeing the Stygian scale bear's actions, Duan Lingtian smiled and had no intention of stopping it. Soon, the Stygian scale bear's sharp claws landed again. This time, its strength was even stronger. It used almost all of its strength without holding back. Boom, 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 boom. A thunderous explosion was heard again, causing an even more terrifying shockwave. Accompanying these loud noises were the continuous sounds of air explosions in the air, as well as the sound of stormy waves being squeezed out from the surface of the sea. What a powerful defensive martial skill! Yang Hui's eyes lit up, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. At this moment, he had already stopped moving. Inside the protective shield formed by his energy, Zhou Di and the other 8 people were cultivating without being disturbed. Inside the protective shield, they could not hear anything outside. Although the shockwave that swept out with Duan Lingtian and the Stygian scale bear as the center caused the protective shield to tremble, it did not break through. My 9 dragons protection can be considered to have entered the mastery stage. Once I enter the perfection stage, I'll be able to condense 9 divine dragons to protect my body. Chapter 1268. The 5-colored light shield formed by the 5-colored divine dragons could not be broken even with the Stygian scale bear's all-out attack. Roar! The Stygian scale bear roared again. However, this time, its roar was filled with fear. Obviously, the Stygian scale bear had realized how powerful Duan Lingtian was. It was afraid. Although its intelligence was low, it was only compared to an ordinary demon emperor powerhouse. It was completely terrified when faced with an opponent who could remain unscathed even with its all-out attack. Its mountain-like body shook, and it turned around abruptly, intending to escape. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. As the saying goes, courtesy demands reciprocity. If you can take 2 of my attacks and not die, I'll spare your life. Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold when he saw the Stygian scale bear trying to escape. He moved his body and performed the dragon soaring 9 heavens again, catching up with the Stygian scale bear in a flash. Duan Lingtian's strength was above the Stygian scale bear's even without his spiritual weapon. This could be seen from how he easily blocked the Stygian scale bear's all-out attack with his defensive martial skill earlier. Therefore, it was easy for him to catch up with the Stygian scale bear and block its path. Before the Stygian scale bear had the time to react, Duan Lingtian moved and executed the movement technique, dragon soaring 9 heavens, once again. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a five-colored divine dragon as he collided with the devil spirit bear. Whoosh! Without using any martial skill, Duan Ling Tian threw a punch at the Stygian scale bear's chest at lightning speed. It was a solid punch. Boom! A loud sound reverberated. The force from Duan Lingtian's punch penetrated the Stygian scale bear's chest with ease, causing the void to tremble as a rolling shockwave swept out. Boom! 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 The shockwave continued to wreak havoc and swept out, setting off a series of thunderous booms. The commotion was undoubtedly much greater than when the Stygian scale bear attacked Duan Lingtian earlier. Roar! The Stygian scale bear let out a deafening scream as its huge body flew out like an arrow. It flew for more than 100 meters before it slowed down. Roar! After the Stygian scale bear stopped moving, it glared at Duan Lingtian with a murderous gleam in its eyes before it began to descend. It wanted to escape into the sea. How? How is this possible? It actually didn't die? Duan Lingtian was stunned when he saw that the Stygian scale bear had only let out two miserable cries before it fled back into the sea. Not only did he exert all of his origin energy in the punch earlier, but he had also exerted all of his fused profundity and sword profundity. Originally, in his opinion, with the Stygian scale bear's strength, his punch was completely capable of killing it. However, the result was completely out of his expectations. The Stygian scale bear has an extremely terrifying scale armor. Even if I were to punch it with all my strength like you, it might not necessarily die. At the same time, the spirit profound Emperor Wu Yanghui transmitted his voice into Duan Lingtian's ears, waking Duan Lingtian up. His defense is so strong? When Duan Lingtian heard this, he could not help but be shocked. It seemed like the heavens were fair. When the Stygian scale bear had low intelligence and could not transform into a human, it was given an indestructible shell. Seeing that the Stygian scale bear was about to fall into the sea, Duan Lingtian made his move again. Before the Stygian scale bear fell into the sea, he blocked its path. I've said before, if you can survive 2 of my attacks, I'll let you go. Don't even think about escaping before I attack you for the second time. Duan Lingtian said coldly. He did not care if the Stygian scale bear understood him or not. Just now, when he said those words, it was actually just a casual remark. In his opinion, he only needed 1 attack to kill the Stygian scale bear. Who would have thought that the Stygian scale bear's scale armor would be so terrifying? It had blocked almost all of the attacks for it, and it did not seem to be injured even after receiving a full-force punch from him. Roar! The Stygian scale bear roared. It seemed to know that it would not be able to escape if the human in front of it did not get rid of him. Hence, it pounced on him again. Faced with the Stygian scale bear's claws, Duan Lingtian looked at the Stygian scale bear calmly. 9 dragons protection. Once again, 5 divine dragons appeared around his body. They moved quickly and transformed into a 5-colored light shield. Boom, 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 boom. The Stygian scale bear attacked Duan Lingtian crazily. It attacked with its claws again and again. The lightning-like attacks fell like rain on the 5-colored light shield that rose around Duan Lingtian's body. However, its attacks only caused ripples on the 5-colored light shield. It was as though it was tickling the Stygian scale bear. What's he doing? Yang Hui simply stood there, unmoving like a mountain. Even his robes didn't flutter in the slightest. He looked at Duan Lingtian, who was standing there in a daze. He could not help but feel puzzled. After a while, he got his answer. Gale Thunderfinger. Duan Lingtian, who had been standing there in a daze, suddenly moved. He lifted his hand and pointed a finger at the Stygian scale bear's chest that was attacking him. To be more precise, his finger was pointing at a spot where the Stygian scale bear's chest and neck met. There was a gap there that was not covered by the scales. The gap was very small. If one did not look carefully, they would not have noticed it. Gale Thunderfinger was an offensive martial skill that came with the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. It was only an Earth-rank martial skill, and Duan Lingtian had not used it for a long time. However, when it was cast by Duan Lingtian, it was like a gust of wind, and its momentum was like a rainbow. The fused profundity replaced the wind profundity. The sword profundity replaced the thunder profundity. As soon as he pointed his finger, the two profundities followed him like shadows and landed on the small gap between the Stygian scale bear's chest and neck. They cut through the gap like tofu. Spurt. When the finger landed, blood splattered everywhere. During this process, Duan Lingtian did not feel any resistance. When his finger pierced the Stygian scale bear, several finger forces shot out from his fingertips and twisted wildly in the Stygian scale bear's body. Instantly, the Stygian scale bear's mountain-like body trembled violently. Roar! Roar! Accompanied by shrill cries, the Stygian scale bear's voice became softer and softer until it finally disappeared. The Stygian scale bear's huge body fell from the sky. Inner core. Seeing that the Stygian scale bear was about to fall into the sea, Duan Lingtian made his move. He lifted the Stygian scale bear with one arm and took out a spirit sword with the other hand. He stabbed the Stygian scale bear's wound. What happened next was simple. Using the Stygian scale bear's wound as a starting point, Duan Lingtian tore open the scales on the Stygian scale bear's body along the small gaps between the scales. He took out a pill that was shining faintly. It was the Stygian scale bear's inner core. After taking out the profundity fragment from the Stygian scale bear's body, Duan Lingtian allowed the Stygian scale bear to fall into the sea with a loud bang. It set off countless waves. In the distance, Yang Hui had a shocked expression on his face. What a powerful observation! He saw through the Stygian scale bear's weakness in just a few breaths of time. Yang Hui could not help but sigh when he recalled the scene earlier. He still remembered. When he first went out to sea and encountered the Stygian scale bear, he spent more than an hour to find the Stygian scale bear's weakness. However, the purple-clad young man nearby only spent a few breaths of time to find it. It was so fast that it was shocking. After putting away the spoils of war, Duan Lingtian returned to Yang Hui's side and asked curiously, "Are the demon beasts in the overseas all-powerful but can't transform and have low intelligence?" "Of course not." Yang Hui shook his head. In the overseas, demon emperors like the Stygian scale bear are the minority. Most of the demon emperors are similar to the demon emperors on Cloud Continent. For example, the emperor stage demon beasts we encountered along the way were all like the Stygian scale bear that I killed. The other emperor stage demon beasts can transform into humans and have intelligence that's not inferior to humans, Yang Hui explained. Duan Lingtian nodded. I see. Duan Lingtian nodded in realization. Duan Lingtian had not fully recovered his memory. Otherwise, he would have learned about this from the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory. After all, the Reincarnation Emperor Wu had left Cloud Continent before. Although he did not go deep into the overseas, he had stayed there for a period of time and encountered many overseas demon beasts. There was no lack of demon emperors among them. Soon after, Yang Hui continued to lead Duan Lingtian and the others on their journey. As they got closer to the hidden fog island, Duan Lingtian did not continue to cultivate. His mind was completely immersed in the memory that he had recovered in the past few months. He realized that the memory was extremely rich. First, he recalled some of his previous experiences. He recalled most of the memories from when he left the southern outer land of Cloud Continent and crossed the Ruo Shui River. Crossing the Ruo Shui River, subduing the Gold Thug, annihilating the Berserk Mongrel Rodent clan, breaking into the Yin Yang sect, establishing the Ling Tian sect. The memories from when he crossed the Ruo Shui River grew like bamboo shoots after the rain and took root in Duan Lingtian's mind. Everything seemed to have happened yesterday. Tianwu. Soon after, he remembered Feng Tianwu, the girl who had always been by his side. He could not recall her origin. She was imprisoned in the Lost Stone Forest. He also remembered what happened to him in the Lost Stone Forest. He remembered the Devil Seal Tablet as well. During the battle in the Lost Stone Forest, the Devil Seal Tablet devilified him and fought fiercely with Emperor Wu until his consciousness was completely annihilated. He remembered all of this. So, the Devil Seal Tablet was left in the Lost Stone Forest. Tianwu is also in the Lost Stone Forest. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed coldly with killing intent. Brother Yang. Duan Lingtian looked at Yang Hui and took the initiative to greet him. Yang Hui looked at Duan Lingtian in confusion. Brother Lingtian, what's the matter? Brother Yang. I'd like to know if Emperor Wu from the Lost Stone Forest will bring people to the Hidden Fog martial competition this time? Duan Lingtian asked. Of course. Chapter 1269. That's good. Duan Lingtian nodded in satisfaction when he found out that the owner of Lost Stone Forest, Emperor Wu, would be coming. At the same time, the cold gleam in the depth of his eyes grew stronger as though it was about to devour someone. What's wrong? Brother Lingtian, do you have a grudge against Emperor Wu? Yang Hui could not help but ask when he noticed that something was wrong with Duan Lingtian.
Yes.
Duan Lingtian nodded. When Yang Hui saw that Duan Lingtian did not say anything after he nodded, he realized that he did not want to talk about it. Therefore, he did not ask any further. However, he could not help but remind him, Brother Lingtian, Emperor Wu, Shi broke through to the 4th level Emperor Wu stage earlier than I did. His strength is not to be underestimated. 4th level Emperor Wu stage, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. Although his expression did not change, his heart could not help but sink, although he recalled what happened in Lost Stone Forest back then. However, the strength he displayed after he was devilified and Emperor Wu's strength was extremely vague in his memory. Now that he heard Yang Hui's words, he had a certain understanding of Emperor Wu. Yang Hui led the group and continued on their journey. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, began to ponder to himself. Back then, when the selection of Emperor Wu's disciples and followers was held at Lingxian Peak, his cultivation base had already successfully broken through to the 6th level martial monarch stage. Naturally, the reason he broke through so quickly was all thanks to the rebirth pill and the destruction before reconstruction. However, the increase in his strength was not only in his cultivation base. The fused profundity and sword profundity that he had comprehended had also greatly improved. According to his estimation, the rapid improvement of the 2 profundities should be attributed to the soul remnant energy from the Devil Seal tablet suppressing his soul. His soul had been in danger of being destroyed, but it had turned out to be a blessing in disguise. He had obtained an indescribable qualitative change and sublimation. It had been a few months since the selection of Emperor Wu's disciples and followers was held at Lingxian Peak. Although he was in a hurry, he did not delay his cultivation. Furthermore, along the way, the spirit profound Emperor Wu Yang Hui was the one who brought him and the other 9 people. He did not expend any energy at all. As a result, his cultivation base had successfully broken through to the 9th level martial monarch stage. As for the 2 profound meanings he had comprehended, his fused profundity and sword profundity had both risen to the 5th level. The sword profound had caught up with the fused profound. All of this was due to the sword Dao comprehension accumulated in Duan Lingtian's mind. The sword Dao comprehension originated from the word sword in Duan Lingtian's hometown. The word sword was left behind by a self-proclaimed sword saint, Feng Qingyang. While Duan Lingtian was secretly estimating his current strength, a light bulb suddenly lit up in his mind, and a name appeared in his mind. It was the name of the self-proclaimed sword saint. The memory of the word sword began to flash in his mind as he recalled it. I was wondering how my sword profundity could rise so quickly and even catch up with the fused profundity. So it's all because of the word sword. After recalling the memory, Duan Lingtian's heart was suddenly enlightened. At some point in time, Duan Lingtian closed his eyes again. He knew very well that with his current strength, he was far inferior to Emperor Wu, who was at the 4th level Emperor Wu stage. If he wanted to defeat Emperor Wu, he still needed to improve his strength. Therefore, he quickly immersed himself in his cultivation and did not let go of any opportunity to cultivate. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, divine dragon form. While cultivating, Duan Lingtian and the rest were getting closer to the Hidden Fog Island under Yang Hui's lead. As the overseas Saint Island, the Hidden Fog Island had many Emperor Wu powerhouses and Demon Emperor powerhouses from the Cloud Continent. These Emperor Wu powerhouses and Demon Emperor powerhouses' strength was not inferior to the famous Emperor Wu powerhouses and Demon Emperor powerhouses on the Cloud Continent. There were 3 people who were the most powerful on the Hidden Fog Island. They were the 3 island masters of the Hidden Fog Island. The 3 of them controlled the Hidden Fog Island and had many disciples under them. Although there was no distinction between disciples and followers, there was a clear hierarchy. Core disciple, inner island disciple, and outer island disciple. These three types of Hidden Fog Island disciples were treated differently. The Hidden Fog Martial Competition this time was personally organized by the Hidden Fog Island. Apart from inviting the disciples of the Emperor Wu powerhouses and Demon Emperor powerhouses from the Cloud Continent, the outstanding disciples of the Hidden Fog Island would also participate in the Hidden Fog Martial Competition. At that time, the powerhouses below the age of 70 on the Hidden Fog Island and the Cloud Continent would have an intense competition. Currently, there were only 3 months left before the Hidden Fog Martial Competition would begin. However, the Hidden Fog Island was already bustling with activity. The Emperor Wu powerhouses and Demon Emperor powerhouses who left the Cloud Continent and rushed to the Hidden Fog Island had already arrived on the Hidden Fog Island with 10 of their most outstanding disciples. On the Hidden Fog Island, they were warmly welcomed by the Hidden Fog Island. These Emperor Wu powerhouses, Demon Emperor powerhouses, and their disciples were all arranged to stay in a secluded mansion. These mansions were sparsely located on the south side of the Hidden Fog Island. The south side of the Hidden Fog Island was lush with greenery and fresh air. Moreover, it was filled with rich heaven and earth origin energy. It was a good place for cultivation. Almost everyone who was interested in the Hidden Fog Island knew about it. The rich origin stone reserves on the Hidden Fog Island were hidden underground on the east side of the Hidden Fog Island. The cultivation environment on the Hidden Fog Island was also affected by the origin stone reserves. Due to this reason, the east side of the Hidden Fog Island was the best place for cultivation. It was the cultivation place of the 3 island masters, the Hidden Fog Island's core disciples, and the inner island disciples. The outer island disciples were not qualified to set foot in there due to their low status. The outer island disciples were usually distributed on the north and west sides of the Hidden Fog Island. The Hidden Fog Island was surrounded by beautiful scenery and lush greenery. It was a natural scene. However, unlike the surroundings of the Hidden Fog Island, there was a huge city in the middle of the Hidden Fog Island. It was also the only city on the Hidden Fog Island. Hidden Fog City. In the Hidden Fog City, apart from the guest elders of the Hidden Fog Island, there were also Emperor Wu powerhouses from the Cloud Continent. Of course, apart from these people, most of the people in the Fog City were the natives of the Hidden Fog Island. These natives were the descendants of the Hidden Fog Island's disciples since the Hidden Fog Island was established. Their descendants who were talented had all become the Hidden Fog Island's disciples. Those who were not talented stayed in the Hidden Fog City to do some business and settle down. Many years had passed, and the Hidden Fog City had developed quite well. It was extremely lively. The south side of the Hidden Fog Island was the place where the Hidden Fog Island entertained their guests. Currently, the martial emperors and demon emperors from Cloud Continent, as well as the 10 most outstanding disciples they brought, were all arranged to stay here as long as they came. Junior sisters, it's your first time on the Hidden Fog Island, so I'm afraid you haven't been to the Hidden Fog City, right? How about I bring you around? In a spacious mansion in the south of the Hidden Fog Island, a middle-aged man in casual clothes was staring at the 2 young ladies in front of him with greed in his eyes. Beside him, another middle-aged man had a similar gaze. His eyes were filled with greed and desire as he stared at the 2 ladies in front of him. Their eyes were filled with lust, and perverted lust. They had lived on the Hidden Fog Island for most of their lives, but it was their first time seeing such beauties. Moreover, they saw 2 of them at the same time. It made them feel that their trip was not in vain. The 2 ladies in front of them were so beautiful that it was suffocating. It was as though they had stolen their souls. The 2 ladies' appearances could be said to be peerless, and they were devastatingly beautiful. Although they were equally beautiful, the auras of the 2 ladies were completely different. The lady in the light purple robe had a faint seductive aura. It was as though she could turn all living things upside down. She was like a red rose. If the lady in the purple robe was a red rose, then the other lady would be a pure snow lotus. She was a pretty girl from a humble family, and she was pure and lovely. Both ladies were beautiful in their own way. That's right. Junior sisters, with us accompanying you, I guarantee that your trip to the Hidden Fog City will not be in vain, the other middle-aged man said. He did not hide the fanaticism in his eyes at all. Although these two middle-aged men were dressed in casual clothes, there was a token made of an unknown material tied to their waists. Each of them had the word inner engraved on it. If there were natives of the Hidden Fog Island here, they would definitely recognize that this was the token that the Inner Island disciples of the Hidden Fog Island carried around with them. It represented their identity. The Inner Island disciples of the Hidden Fog Island were on par with the ordinary disciples of Emperor Wu on the Cloud Continent in terms of strength. Thank you for your kindness, senior brothers. However, both of us have just arrived, so we're planning to rest for a while. We don't plan to go to the Hidden Fog City for the time being, the lady in the purple robe said slowly. The purple-clothed woman said unhurriedly. She seemed polite, but in the depths of her autumn eyes, there was a bit of disgust. She disliked the two middle-aged men in front of her. If that's the case, we'll come back another day, one of the middle-aged men said. After a while, the two middle-aged men turned around and left. The moment they turned around, their faces turned solemn. They had come to the Hidden Fog City more than 10 times recently. However, they were rejected every time. Their patience was almost exhausted. If they were ordinary women, they would have used force if the soft approach did not work. However, the two women they had their eyes on were the direct disciples of Emperor Wu from the Cloud Continent. Although they were not as strong as them, they did not dare to use force, unless they wanted to die. The two of them were merely Inner Island disciples of the Hidden Fog Island. Even if they were killed by Emperor Wu from the Cloud Continent, the three island masters of the Hidden Fog Island would not stand up for them. Chapter 1270. The status of the Hidden Fog Island's core disciple in the eyes of the three island masters of the Hidden Fog Island was equivalent to the status of Emperor Wu's direct disciple in the eyes of Emperor Wu on the Cloud Continent. Sister Kerr, it seems like we won't be able to go to the Hidden Fog City today. Although those two fellows have left, they might be lurking nearby. They'll definitely follow us once we leave. The purple-clad lady said to the other lady next to her. It's all right, Sister Fayer. We can go again in a few days. The latter replied. The two ladies were Li Fei and Kerr, who followed Yuhan Emperor Wu to the Hidden Fog Island. Although they were Emperor Wu's direct disciples under Emperor Wu, it was difficult for them to achieve outstanding results in the Hidden Fog martial competition with their current abilities. They came to the Hidden Fog Island to join in the fun. Ever since they came to the Hidden Fog Island, they had planned to go to the Hidden Fog City. However, there were two disgusting flies buzzing in their ears every time. It seriously affected their mood. The flies in Li Fei and Kerr's eyes were the two Hidden Fog Island's Inner Island disciples who had just left. It was the two Inner Island disciples who welcomed them to stay in the Hidden Fog Island. However, who would have thought that they would pester them every now and then? They would appear as soon as they were ready to go out. They were like dog skin plasters that they could not shake off no matter how hard they tried. Senior Sister Sue should be out of closed-door cultivation in a few days. We'll ask her to come with us then. Li Fei's eyes gleamed as she muttered. I don't think they'll dare to do anything with Senior Sister Sue around. Kerr snorted softly. When the two ladies returned to their rooms to cultivate, another group of uninvited guests arrived on the Hidden Fog Island. It was the group from Lingxian Peak who had just arrived on the Hidden Fog Island. It was Duan Lingtian's group. Duan Lingtian's group, led by Spirit Profound Emperor Wu Yonghui, successfully passed through the dangerous sea region and arrived at their destination, the Hidden Fog Island. We have arrived at the Hidden Fog Island. At this moment, Yang Hui's voice woke everyone up, including Duan Lingtian. All of a sudden, everyone came to their senses. We're here. This is the Hidden Fog Island? Standing here, I can only see a corner of the Hidden Fog Island. Just like its name, most of the Hidden Fog Island is covered by fog. It's as if it's hidden in fog. Many people were sizing up the island in front of them and discussing animatedly. Duan Lingtian stood at the side and sized up the island in front of him. The Hidden Fog Island lived up to its name. Not long after Duan Lingtian and the rest entered the Hidden Fog Island, two silhouettes came from afar and blocked their path. May I ask which Emperor Wu powerhouse from the Cloud Continent are you, my lord? After the two of them stopped Duan Lingtian and the others, they looked at Yang Hui, who was in the lead, and asked directly, Spirit Profound Emperor Wu. Yang Hui replied calmly and glanced at their waists. Inner Island disciples of the Hidden Fog Island? My lord, the Island Master sent us to welcome all of you. Please follow us. We, the Hidden Fog Island, have arranged accommodation for all of you on the southern island. One of the Inner Island disciples said respectfully. Lead the way. Yang Hui nodded. The two Inner Island disciples immediately turned around and led the way. They brought Duan Lingtian, Yang Hui, and the rest to the southern part of the Hidden Fog Island. That was where the southern island of the Hidden Fog Island was located. The southern island was where the Hidden Fog Island received guests. Usually, no one was allowed to enter. There would be some Inner Island disciples patrolling the sky above the southern island from time to time. If any intruder was discovered by them, there was only one outcome: death. On the way, Duan Lingtian and the rest learned about the Hidden Fog Island from one of the Inner Island disciples. This included the three most powerful island masters in the Hidden Fog Island, a group of Emperor Wu stage and Demon Emperor stage guest elders, as well as some permanent residents of the Emperor Wu stage. Of course, they also heard that there were many weak natives in the Hidden Fog City. The Hidden Fog Island is closed to the outside world. Apart from some powerful Emperor Wu stage and Demon Emperor stage powerhouses, the rest of the natives have never left the Hidden Fog Island from birth to death. This place is simply like a paradise. Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh when he thought about this. Apart from that, Duan Lingtian and the rest also learned about the division of the Hidden Fog Island's core disciples, Inner Island disciples, and Outer Island disciples from the Inner Island disciple. If the Hidden Fog Island was compared to the cultivation place of the Emperor Wu stage powerhouses on the Cloud Continent, in that case, the Outer Island disciples of the Hidden Fog Island were equivalent to Emperor Wu's disciples. The Inner Island disciples were equivalent to Emperor Wu's disciples. Core disciples, on the other hand, were equivalent to the Martial Emperor's direct disciples. The participants of the Hidden Fog martial competition this time aren't only people from Cloud Continent, right? People from the Hidden Fog Island are participating as well? Yang Hui's third direct disciple, Zhong'an, could not help but ask in surprise after learning about this from the Hidden Fog Island's Inner Island disciple.
Yes.
The Inner Island disciple nodded. However, our Hidden Fog Island is the same as yours. There are only 10 people participating. The Hidden Fog Island is so big, but there are only 10 people participating in the Hidden Fog martial competition. These 10 people must have extraordinary abilities, right? Someone asked again. Of course. The Inner Island disciple nodded as a hint of pride appeared in his eyes. There are no less than 20 core disciples in our Hidden Fog Island. The 10 people who are participating in the Hidden Fog martial competition are the 10 most outstanding core disciples in our Hidden Fog Island. Boom. The Inner Island disciples' words were like a bolt from the blue to Duan Lingtian and the rest. They were so shocked that they could not regain their senses for a long time. There were no less than 20 core disciples on the Hidden Fog Island? One must know that the strength of a core disciple on the Hidden Fog Island was equivalent to Emperor Wu's direct disciple on the Cloud Continent. The 10 people selected from the 20 core disciples on the Hidden Fog Island were undoubtedly the elites among the core disciples. Among them, there were probably many powerhouses like Emperor Wu. At that moment, apart from Duan Lingtian and Zhou Di who could still maintain their calm, the 8 people including Song Ting and Zhong'an who were both Emperor Wu's direct disciples had a grave expression on their faces. At this moment, they finally realized that they would encounter a group of formidable opponents in the Hidden Fog martial competition. Soon after, Duan Lingtian and the rest settled down in a spacious mansion with the help of the 2 Inner Island disciples. There were many independent courtyards in the mansion. It was more than enough for the 11 of them to occupy a small courtyard each. Master, the Hidden Fog martial competition will begin in 3 months. If you and your disciples feel bored during these 3 months, you can go to the Hidden Fog City for a walk. The 2 Inner Island disciples said to Yang Hui before they left. Yang Hui nodded. If that's the case, we'll take our leave first. The 2 Inner Island disciples turned around and headed to the east of the Hidden Fog Island after bidding farewell to Yang Hui. Their mission was to receive an Emperor Wu powerhouse and the people he brought with him. As soon as they completed their mission, they could return to the east of the Hidden Fog Island to report. After reporting, they would no longer need to receive Emperor Wu powerhouses and his subordinates from the Cloud Continent. Other inner island disciples would receive the remaining Emperor Wu powerhouses and his subordinates who had yet to arrive. Not only are there natives of the Hidden Fog Island and the Hidden Fog City, but there's also Emperor Wu powerhouses who came from the Cloud Continent to settle down here. Interesting. Duan Lingtian sat cross-legged on the bed and muttered to himself, I'll take a walk in the Hidden Fog City in a few days. I'll also experience the Hidden Fog Island's culture. However, as an overseas Saint Island, the cultivation environment on the Hidden Fog Island is incomparable to the Cloud Continent. I feel like there might even be a supreme-grade origin stone mine under the Hidden Fog Island. Duan Lingtian speculated to himself as he sensed the rich heaven and earth origin energy on the Hidden Fog Island. A supreme-grade origin stone mine. All the origin stones produced by such a mine were supreme-grade origin stones without exception. There were even some supreme-grade origin stones with extremely high quality. Such a origin stone mine had never appeared on the Cloud Continent before. Although supreme-grade origin stones would appear on Cloud Continent, the supreme-grade origin stones on Cloud Continent were all from high-grade origin stone mines. The production was extremely small and could not compare to supreme-grade origin stone mines. However, even if he guessed that there was a supreme-grade origin stone mine under the Hidden Fog Island, Duan Lingtian was not interested at all. In his opinion, the supreme-grade origin stones were merely a currency used to trade and a material used to inscribe inscriptions. As long as he had enough, he did not care how much he had. Since there might be a supreme-grade origin stone mine under the Hidden Fog Island, then the Hidden Fog Island is a treasure land. There must be many rare minerals and medicinal herbs here. I'll make a trip to the Hidden Fog City in a few days to see if I can gather the materials to refine a royal-grade spirit bow and arrow. As long as I have the materials, I'll be able to condense the royal-grade weapon fire and refine a royal-grade spirit bow and arrow when my cultivation base advances to the Emperor Wu stage. By then, I'll be able to use the royal-grade spirit bow and arrow to cultivate the colossal aerolite arrow that father left for me. In just a blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian made up his mind. Subsequently, he closed his eyes again and cultivated in peace. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, divine dragon form. While he was cultivating, he did not forget to comprehend the 2 profundities. While his cultivation base was improving rapidly, the 2 profundities were improving as well. 10 days later, Duan Lingtian woke up. I'm only half a step away from the Emperor Wu stage. Give me some more time, and I'll definitely be able to break through successfully. The moment Duan Lingtian opened his eyes, a gleam flashed across his eyes. He was brimming with confidence. He had begun to break through the bottleneck of the Emperor Wu stage during his cultivation this time. He was only 1 step away from successfully breaking through the final bottleneck. Once he broke through, he would be like a carp leaping over the dragon's gate and soaring into the sky. Now, I'll make a trip to the Hidden Fog City. Chapter 1271. On the way to Hidden Fog City, a voice resonated in Duan Lingtian's mind. Boy, what time is it now? I can see that your soul is almost fully recovered. It was Wang Ba's voice. My soul is almost fully recovered? Duan Lingtian did not answer Wang Ba. His eyes lit up immediately. In other words, my lost memory is almost fully recovered? Yes. Wang Ba replied before he continued to say, Boy, you haven't answered me yet. It's been almost a year since you said I'd need a year to recover my memory. Duan Lingtian replied, It's just as I expected. Wang Ba finally understood. He said smugly, Boy, are you convinced now? In my opinion, it's the stupidest thing you did when you went to Ling Xian Peak and asked that spirit-profound Emperor Wu for help. Duan Lingtian ignored Wang Ba when he heard his smug words. However, he soon recalled something and could not help but ask, Bastard, how much do you know about Saint-grade martial tactics? The Saint-grade martial tactic is rare here. In the Dao martial Saintland, almost all those above the innate void restoration stage cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic. Wang Ba said nonchalantly, in the Dao martial Saintland, only Saint-grade martial tactics can greatly affect a person's strength. Mortal-grade martial tactics are just some superficial skills. They're only nice to look at but useless. Mortal-grade martial tactics? Duan Lingtian was stunned. What's that? The martial skills on the mortal continent are the mortal-grade martial tactics, Wang Ba said again. The martial skills on the cloud continent are mortal-grade martial tactics? The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched when he heard that. According to Wang Ba, the martial skills on cloud continent, no matter if it was yellow rank martial skills, profound rank martial skills, earth rank martial skills, or heaven rank martial skills, they were all common grade martial skills. Moreover, in Wang Ba's eyes, the common grade martial tactics were just some fancy tricks that were useless. Fake? Aren't you going a little overboard? Our cloud continent's martial skills, especially high-grade heaven-rank martial skills, can still raise one's strength by a lot, Duan Lingtian said with some dissatisfaction. What a joke. Along the way, he had seriously studied and cultivated the various martial skills that came with the Nine Dragons War Sovereign technique. It wasn't easy for him to achieve what he had today. But now, Wang Ba's words had negated his many years of hard work. Naturally, he was unwilling to accept this. What? Are you still not convinced? Wang Ba snorted. Boy, it's good that you haven't come into contact with the Saint-grade martial tactic yet. Once you come into contact with the Saint-grade martial tactic, you'll know that the mortal-grade martial tactic you came into contact with in the past is just a joke. Is it really that exaggerated? Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice. Even until now, he was still unwilling to admit that the mortal-grade martial tactic was just a superficial skill. Let me put it this way. Even the best mortal-grade martial tactic in your mortal continent can only raise a martial artist's strength by 10%, right? Wang Ba asked. 10%? Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. The martial skills that he cultivated could be considered as the best martial skills in the cloud continent. However, even if those martial skills had broken through to the perfection stage, it would only raise his strength by 10%. Based on what you're saying, the Saint-grade martial tactic raises a martial artist's strength much more than the mortal-grade martial tactic? Duan Lingtian asked. Of course. Wang Ba said matter-of-factly, even the lowest-grade Saint-grade martial tactic raises a martial artist's strength by at least 20%. The lowest-grade Saint-grade martial tactic raises a martial artist's strength by at least 20%? Duan Lingtian frowned. Is that true? Such an increase was twice as good as the heaven-rank advanced martial tactic that he mastered. Humph. When you arrive at the Dao martial saint land in the future and cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic, you'll naturally know that I'm not lying. Wang Ba snorted. Why do we have to wait until we arrive at the Dao martial saint land? Didn't you call yourself a saint stage powerhouse or something? Don't tell me you've never cultivated a Saint-grade martial tactic before? Duan Lingtian asked one after another. When Duan Lingtian reached this point, he wanted to continue but was interrupted by Wang Ba. Boy, I know what you're thinking. Don't you want me to teach you the Saint-grade martial tactic? Unfortunately, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Wang Ba said. Humph. Saint stage powerhouse. You're not even willing to teach me a mere Saint-grade martial tactic. How stingy. Duan Lingtian snorted and said with dissatisfaction. Boy, I'm not being stingy. You should know that the Saint-grade martial tactic is different from the mortal-grade martial tactic. Mortal-rank martial arts could be taught to others through verbal communication. However, the Saint-grade martial tactic can't be taught. If you want to cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic, you'll have to go through the Saint token. Wang Ba said. Saint token? Duan Lingtian was puzzled. At the same time, a thought flashed in his mind, and a jade token appeared. It was the jade token that his cheapskate father had left him. There's a set of Saint-grade martial tactic in the jade token. Could it be that the jade token was the Saint token? Soon, as Wang Ba continued to speak, Duan Lingtian knew he had guessed correctly. The jade token that his cheapskate father had left him was the Saint token. The Saint-grade martial tactic usually exists in the Saint token. If you want to cultivate a certain Saint-grade martial tactic, you'll have to obtain the Saint token that contains the Saint-grade martial tactic. Wang Ba said, because of this, even if I know more Saint-grade martial tactics, I won't be able to teach you. You'll only be able to cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic if you obtain the Saint token. As long as you infuse your spiritual energy into the Saint token, You'll be able to read the Saint grade martial tactic in it and cultivate it step by step. When you've cultivated the Saint grade martial tactic in the Saint token to its peak, the Saint token will be useless to you. Wang Ba continued to say, is there a need to leave the Saint token until the Saint grade martial tactic is cultivated to its peak? Duan Lingtian frowned. Doesn't it say that as long as I infuse my spiritual energy into the Saint token, all the information about the Saint grade martial tactic in the Saint token will be integrated into my mind, as though it's taking root and sprouting? Where did you hear that from? Wang Ba said disdainfully, you must have been fooled. Boy, I'll teach you a good lesson today. No matter how high your comprehension is, it's impossible for you to absorb all the information about the Saint grade martial tactic in the Saint token at once. Everyone has to rely on the Saint token step by step to cultivate, according to the information regarding the Saint grade martial tactic in it. In the era I came from, it was rumored that no matter how high one's comprehension was, it would still take 2 to 3 years to completely absorb the information in a Saint token that contained the lowest level of Saint grade martial tactic. Of course, when he fully absorbs the information in the Saint token, he'll have cultivated the Saint grade martial tactic in it to its peak. Wang Ba said, can't he first memorize the information about the Saint grade martial tactic in the Saint token before he slowly cultivates it? Duan Ling Tian's frown deepened, and his tone was filled with urgency. Impossible. Wang Ba said firmly, when anyone reads the Saint token with their spiritual energy, they'll only be able to see part of the information about the Saint grade martial tactic. They'll only be able to see the information after they've comprehended and cultivated the Saint grade martial tactic successfully. In this way, step by step, when you've completely read the information about the Saint grade martial tactic in the Saint token, you'll have cultivated the Saint grade martial tactic to its peak. Wang Ba explained patiently, there should be exceptions, right? For example, some Saint tokens can read the information about the Saint grade martial tactic in one go and memorize it in one's mind before one can cultivate it slowly. Duan Lingtian asked, it's impossible for there to be such a Saint token. Boy, I don't care who told you this. I only know that you've been fooled. Wang Ba said nonchalantly. Fooled? Duan Lingtian did not comment on Wang Ba's words. However, he had no choice but to believe Wang Ba's words. The problem was, he had indeed memorized all the information about the Saint grade martial tactic, the colossal aerolite arrow, in the Saint token that his father had left for him without missing a single word. Although he had not officially started cultivating the colossal aerolite arrow yet. However, even if he threw away the Saint token that contained the colossal aerolite arrow, he would still be able to cultivate the colossal aerolite arrow successfully. This was because all the information about the colossal aerolite arrow had been imprinted in his mind the moment he infused his spiritual energy into the Saint token. It was as though it had taken root in his mind. He could not forget it even if he wanted to. Could it be? Could it be that only I have this special ability? I only need to infuse my spiritual energy into the Saint token to successfully memorize the information about the Saint grade martial tactic in it? In the end, Duan Lingtian could only make such a guess. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. This was because according to Wang Ba, it was almost impossible for such a situation to happen. It'll be great if I can get another Saint token. I can verify if I really have this special ability or not. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. If he really had this special ability, no matter what Saint token it was in the future, as long as his spiritual energy could reach it, he would be able to take all the Saint grade martial tactic in it for himself. Just the thought of it made him excited. Soon after, Duan Lingtian returned to his senses and suppressed the excitement in his heart. This was because the silhouette of a big city had already appeared in his sight. It was faintly discernible behind the faint, gloomy fog. It was like a jade palace in a fairyland. So this is the hidden fog city? Just as Duan Lingtian was studying the big city that was faintly discernible in front of him, he saw 3 beautiful figures that were also covered by the fog in the distance. They were heading straight to the city in front. It was obvious they were the 3 women who were going to enter the city. Their backs. Why do they look so familiar? Chapter 1272. The two familiar silhouettes gradually disappeared into the hidden fog city. Duan Lingtian only snapped back to his senses when he saw them. Who are they? Duan Lingtian frowned with confusion written all over his face. At the same time, he tossed everything else to the back of his mind and chased after them. It was as though he wanted to see who the two familiar silhouettes were. He had a feeling that the two silhouettes were very familiar. If it was just the silhouette that gave him a familiar feeling, he could say that he was seeing things or that he was overthinking. However, the appearance of the two familiar silhouettes seemed to be telling him that it was not a coincidence. Perhaps he really knew the two beautiful ladies. At the very least, he knew them in the past, and they seemed to have a special relationship. At this moment, he could even feel it clearly. His heart had begun to tremble unknowingly. The trembling became more and more intense as though his heart was about to jump out of his chest. However, when he arrived in front of the hidden fog city and entered the city, he did not see the two ladies again. They seemed to be from the southern island as well. In other words, they and the green-clad lady must be brought here by some Emperor Wu or Demon Emperor powerhouse from Cloud Continent. Duan Lingtian speculated secretly. A few days ago, when he had just arrived at the Hidden Fog Island, he had heard about it from the two Hidden Fog Island's inner island disciples who had received them. The southern island was where the Hidden Fog Island received their guests. The Hidden Fog Island's recent guests were the group of Emperor Wu powerhouses and Demon Emperor powerhouses from Cloud Continent, as well as the disciples they had brought to participate in the Hidden Fog martial competition. The Hidden Fog City was extremely lively. When one entered, it felt no different from some of the bustling big cities on Cloud Continent. It was packed with people everywhere. Duan Lingtian walked around a few times, but to no avail. He could not find the two ladies who gave him a familiar feeling. Forget it. If they're here to participate in the Hidden Fog martial competition, I'll see them again sooner or later. I'll know if I know them or not by then, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Currently, there was still some time before the Hidden Fog martial competition would begin on the Hidden Fog Island. I'll walk around and see if I can gather the materials needed to refine the Royal Grade Spirit Archery set. I'll definitely be able to break through to the Emperor Wu stage before the Hidden Fog martial competition begins. At that time, as long as I can refine the Royal Grade Spirit Archery set and cultivate the Saint Grade martial tactic, the Colossal Aerolite Arrow, my strength will definitely improve. Ever since Duan Lingtian found out how powerful the Saint Grade martial tactic was from Wang Ba, he was eager to cultivate the Colossal Aerolite Arrow as soon as possible. As long as my strength increases, I'll be able to obtain a good ranking in the Hidden Fog martial competition. A good ranking means I'll be able to obtain more Saint Stones. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed. As long as he obtained the Holy Stone, his path would be much smoother after he broke through to the Emperor Wu realm. After all, the Saint Stone was an item that could speed up the cultivation speed of a powerhouse like Emperor Wu. It was extremely precious and was a priceless treasure. His heart was filled with desire for the Saint Stone. At that moment, Duan Lingtian quickened his steps to prepare the materials. At the same time, in a medicine store on the side of the main road that Duan Lingtian was about to pass by, three beautiful figures stood there. Two women who were as beautiful as flowers were accompanying another green-clad woman. The lady in green was looking at a pill bottle that contained pills. Sister Fair, it's just as you thought. Those two annoying fellows really didn't dare to flirt with us after we called Senior Sister Sue. The pretty girl from a humble family, who appeared to be pure and lovely, said to the purple-clothed girl beside her. The lady in purple smiled lightly when she heard that. Her smile seemed to be able to charm everyone, causing everything around her to pale in comparison. In order to get rid of the two annoying flies, she had purposely brought along their senior sister from Yuhan Valley, Emperor Wu's direct disciple, Su Rong. Because of Su Rong's presence, the two flies did not dare to approach them, let alone flirt with them. The purple-clad woman was none other than Li Fei. The pure and innocent lady standing next to her was Kerr. Suddenly, Li Fei's gaze subconsciously swept over the outside of the medicine shop. There was a purple figure walking past in a hurry. She did not see it clearly as she was not prepared. However, although she did not see it clearly, her delicate body could not help but tremble. Bad guy? That was because that figure was simply too familiar to her. That figure had appeared in her dreams many times in the middle of the night. It had haunted her so much that she almost went crazy. Sister Fayer, did you get the wrong person? Why would young master? Kerr glanced outside the medicine shop, but she did not see the purple figure who had just walked past in a hurry. She thought Li Fei was hallucinating because she missed Duan Lingtian too much. In her opinion, although her young master was outstanding, it was impossible for him to be here. Where was this place? The Hidden Fog Island. As an overseas Saint Island, the Hidden Fog Island was located outside the North Sea of Cloud Continent. Even if a powerhouse like Emperor Wu traveled through the North Sea from Cloud Continent to the Hidden Fog Island, it would still be risky. A powerhouse like Emperor Wu with an ordinary ability might even die on the way. This was because there were many ferocious demon beasts in the North Sea. Among these demon beasts, there was no lack of demon emperors. It was all thanks to the protection of their current master, Martial Emperor Yuhan, that they were able to come here safely. Her young master was here? If she did not see it with her own eyes, she would not have believed it. Whoosh! As if a gust of wind had blown past, Kerr's soft long hair fluttered in the wind, setting off her almost perfect face. At this moment, she seemed to have transformed into a fairy who had fallen from the sky to the mortal world. Sister Fayer. When Kerr snapped back to reality, she noticed that Li Fei had left her side, left the medicine shop, and chased after her. Kerr immediately chased after her. As their senior sister, Su Rong was the first to react to the sudden departure of the two girls. She quickly caught up with Kerr and saw Li Fei at the same time. She was shocked to see that her junior sister Li Fei, who was usually well-behaved, was blocking someone's path. It was a man dressed in purple. He stood there as still as a mountain. That back, looking at the back of the man in purple, before she could see his face clearly, Kerr's delicate body began to tremble violently. At this moment, she was rooted to the ground. Her legs seemed to be filled with lead, and she could not move an inch. She was very familiar with the back of the man in front of her. Bad guy, it's really you. At this moment, Li Fei, who was blocking the way of the man in purple, ignored the surrounding onlookers and slowly walked towards the man in purple. Her beautiful face, which could be said to be capable of causing the downfall of a nation, was filled with uncontrollable joy. In addition, there were also tears of joy flowing down her face. How many years had it been? She finally saw him again. Her man, the man that she, Li Fei, had chosen for her life. She could give up everything for him, including her life. Bad guy, you. Why are you here? After a while, Li Fei arrived in front of the man in purple, who was Duan Lingtian. She stared at Duan Lingtian and asked in a trembling voice, Who are you? As the voice sounded, the smile on Li Fei's face froze. It completely froze. This voice came from Duan Lingtian, who was standing in front of her. Currently, Duan Lingtian was looking at Li Fei with a perplexed expression. This woman gave him an extremely familiar feeling, but to the current him, she was an extremely unfamiliar woman. You don't recognize me? In an instant, Li Fei's face became extremely pale. Her delicate body, which had just stabilized, began to tremble violently again. 2 lines of tears fell from her face, like a pear blossom in the rain. She never expected this. Seeing the man of her dreams again, he did not seem to recognize her. Did he forget about her? At this moment, Li Fei only felt like her heart was being twisted by a knife. Intense pain and discomfort spread throughout her body in the blink of an eye, making it difficult for her to breathe. Wah! Finally, Li Fei could not take it anymore. Her blood rushed to her heart, and she spat out a mouthful of congested blood. Her face became even paler, and she looked so pitiful that it made one's heart ache. Sister Fayer. At this moment, Kerr finally regained her senses. She hurriedly flew out and supported Li Fei, who was on the verge of collapsing. Kerr. Baddie, he doesn't recognize me. Li Fei, who was supported by Kerr, said in a trembling voice. It was as if she was shivering in the cold, and she could not even speak properly. Kerr heard this, and her eyes reddened as she looked at Duan Lingtian. Before she could speak, Duan Lingtian felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. He reached out and clutched his chest. His face was slightly pale as he looked at the two women in front of him. Who? Who are you? Why do I feel that you two are so familiar? And why? Why does my heart ache? Duan Lingtian's voice began to tremble when he reached the end of his sentence. Young master, have you forgotten about Kerr as well? Kerr's eyes turned even redder when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. Two streams of tears flowed down her pure and lovely face. The onlookers felt a wave of heartache when they saw this. This brat actually made these two girls so sad. One look and I can tell he's a heartless man. A person like him who doesn't appreciate his fortune should be struck by lightning. Many of the onlookers glared at Duan Lingtian. They were filled with righteous indignation. I've lost my memory. While the crowd was criticizing Duan Lingtian, Li Fei and Kerr looked at Duan Lingtian in despair. Duan Lingtian looked at Li Fei and Kerr apologetically and said with a wry smile, Amnesia? Chapter 1273. At this moment, both Li Fei and Kerr felt a huge difference in their hearts. This sort of drop was no different from ascending from hell to heaven. Their man had not forgotten them. He had lost his memory. Scoundrel, how did you lose your memory? Young master, what happened? Li Fei and Kerr looked at Duan Lingtian and asked anxiously. When they found out that their man did not mean to forget them, the haze in their hearts disappeared. All that was left was worry. Duan Lingtian's heart trembled violently as he looked at the two women who were looking at him anxiously. He could tell that these two women who gave him a familiar and intimate feeling were worried for him from the bottom of their hearts. Their feelings were sincere, and there was no pretense at all. I used to have such confidence in the past. At this moment, Duan Lingtian desperately wanted to recover the remaining part of his memory. That part of his memory was also the most important part of his memory. Although he had recovered most of his memory, he had not recovered the most important part. This included the two women who seemed to have an unusual relationship with him. Can you tell me what was the relationship between the two of you in the past? I feel that the two of you are very familiar and intimate. It's as if you're my family. Duan Lingtian stared at Li Fei and Kerr as he asked softly. At this moment, even Duan Lingtian himself did not notice that when he spoke, his tone had become gentle. Even his gaze was as gentle as water. We're your fiancés. Li Fei looked at Duan Lingtian expectantly as though she wanted to see if Duan Lingtian would remember anything because of her reminder. Fiancés. Duan Lingtian was stunned. Wow. The surrounding crowd was in an uproar as well. These two outstanding women are actually his fiancés? Is there any justice in this world? This is the first time I've seen such beauties in my life, and there are even two of them. However, both of them are his fiancés? If I can replace him, even if I die in a month, I'm willing to do it. A group of onlookers looked at Duan Lingtian with envy and jealousy, wishing they could replace him. He's junior sister Li and junior sister Kerr's fiancé? Not far away, Su Rong stood there, staring at Duan Lingtian. To be more precise, she was staring at Duan Lingtian's back. Her emotions surged. As far as she knew, the reason her master, Emperor Wu Yuhan, took Li Fei and Kerr as his direct disciples was because of their fiancés. Of course, she did not know what her master was trying to do. However, she could guess that her master was trying to get something from Li Fei and Kerr's fiancé. Other than that, she could not think of any other reason. Both of you are my fiancés? After a long while, Duan Lingtian finally regained his senses. After taking a deep breath, he asked. Although he believed Li Fei's words, he still wanted to confirm it. However, he still wanted to confirm it because this was truly a shocking piece of news to him. It turned out that he already had a fiancé, and two of them at that. Yes, Li Fei nodded. Even though she had admitted that she was Duan Lingtian's fiancés in front of so many people, her expression did not change. It was as though she did not care about the people around her. Kerr was much less thick-skinned. Her face was already flushed red as though it was about to bleed. After receiving Li Fei's confirmation, Duan Lingtian did not know what to say for a moment. Although he knew that the two ladies in front of him were his fiancées, he could not remember anything about them. At this moment, he only felt that the two ladies were very familiar and affectionate. As for what they had experienced together, he could not recall at all. Let's find a place. Both of you can tell me about our past. Let's see if I can remember anything. Duan Lingtian looked around. He felt uncomfortable being treated like a monkey by a group of people. He immediately looked at Li Fei and Kerr and said, I have many things to ask you as well. Li Fei quickly nodded. Although Kerr did not say anything, she obediently nodded as well. As usual, she obeyed Duan Lingtian's words unconditionally. Many years had passed. Whether it was Li Fei or Kerr, although their strength had undergone earth-shattering changes, their feelings for Duan Lingtian had not changed at all. Duan Lingtian was the man they had chosen in their lives. He was also the only man they had chosen. Junior sister Li, junior sister Kerr. Is this the fiancé that both of you often talk about in the past? Right at this moment, a voice sounded, causing Duan Lingtian, Li Fei, and Ku'er, who were just about to leave, to stop in their tracks. They looked in unison at the person who stood out along with the voice. Senior sister Su. Li Fei and Kerr quickly greeted the person who had spoken. Duan Lingtian focused his gaze and saw it was a green-clad woman. She was the third figure he had seen outside of Hidden Fog City. Apart from Li Fei and Ku'er, she was the other person he had seen outside of Hidden Fog City. Scoundrel, she's senior sister Su. Li Fei looked at Duan Lingtian and introduced him. Senior sister Su. Although Duan Lingtian could not recall the past between him, Li Fei, and Kerr, since he had confirmed that both of them were his fiancés, he did not dare to slight their senior sister. I only know that you're junior sister Li and junior sister Kerr's fiancé. How should I address you? Su Rong looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a smile. Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded at Su Rong. Duan Lingtian. I'll remember that. However, according to junior sister Li Fei and junior sister Kerr, you should be in the southern outer land of Cloud Continent. Su Rong looked at Duan Lingtian and asked curiously, Why are you here? Hidden Fog Martial Competition. Duan Lingtian replied, I see. A hint of surprise flashed in Su Rong's eyes before she asked again, Which Emperor Stage powerhouse on Cloud Continent did you come with? Spirit Profound Emperor Wu. Duan Lingtian replied. Su Rong nodded and smiled at Duan Lingtian before she looked at Li Fei and Kerr. Junior sister Li, junior sister Kerr. You haven't seen each other for many years. You should catch up. I'll explain to Master, Su Rong said. Thank you. Thank you, senior sister Su. Upon hearing this, Li Fei and Kerr's eyes lit up immediately. They quickly thanked her. All right. I won't disturb you two from catching up. I'll head back to the southern island first. Su Rong left after saying her goodbyes. After Su Rong left, the onlookers began to whisper among themselves. So, they're from Cloud Continent, and they're here for the Hidden Fog Martial Competition? They must be brought here by Cloud Continent's Emperor Wu and Demon Emperor powerhouses. At once, many people guessed the identities of Duan Lingtian and the other three. Rascal, let's go. Li Fei held Kerr's hand and looked at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded. The three of them were about to leave when they were stopped by a loud shout. Stop right there. The loud shout was like a bolt from the blue. It shocked the people on the scene so much that they snapped back to their senses. Their eyes shifted to the source of the voice in unison. Two middle-aged men appeared along with the loud shout. The two middle-aged men walked in the air aggressively. It was obvious that they did not come with good intentions. Inner Island disciples. Many people saw the identity tokens hanging on the waists of the two middle-aged men. Their faces turned solemn as fear filled their eyes. It's you. Li Fei frowned. There was a hint of disgust in her eyes when she looked at the two middle-aged men. What are you trying to do? Kerr's face turned grave. The two Hidden Fog Island's Inner Island disciples who appeared were the two Inner Island disciples who had been pestering them ever since they arrived on the Hidden Fog Island. Whether it was Kerr or Li Fei, they hated these two Inner Island disciples from the bottom of their hearts. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, merely glanced at the two Inner Island disciples indifferently. His gaze was indifferent, as though he did not care about them at all. I was wondering why the two junior sisters were so heartless to us. It turns out that they already have a fiancé. The two Inner Island disciples approached Duan Lingtian and the other two. They did not respond to Kerr. Instead, they studied Duan Lingtian from head to toe. One of them said in a sarcastic tone, "The two junior sisters are so beautiful that they're capable of causing the downfall of a city. I say, you're just a gigolo. What do you have to be their fiancé?" The other person looked at Duan Lingtian with jealousy and said sarcastically, "The two inner island disciples had been following Li Fei and Ke ever since they left the southern island. It was because Su Rong was following them that they did not dare to get close to them. However, who would have thought that they would witness a scene that enraged them on the streets of the hidden fog city not long after they followed the two ladies to the city? The two beauties that they coveted already had a fiancé. Moreover, it was the same person. Especially when they saw that the two ladies' fiancé was just a gigolo, they could no longer suppress their anger. Jealous, they showed themselves one after another. What right did he have? He was just a gigolo, and his looks were not bad. How could he possess two peerless beauties? They refused to accept this. Moreover, these two beauties were the ones that they had their eyes on. They felt extremely humiliated. My two junior sisters. In my opinion, this kind of pretty boy is mostly good-looking but useless. If you're looking for a man, you should look for a man who can protect you and give you a sense of security." The inner island disciple who spoke first glanced at Duan Lingtian in disdain before looking at Li Fei and Ke. He reminded them hypocritically, "Who are you to us? What does it have to do with you what kind of man we look for?" Li Fei sneered. Chapter 1274. Ke followed suit. She stood on the other side of Duan Lingtian and reached out to hold Duan Lingtian's arm. However, she was shy, so she did not lean on Duan Lingtian's shoulder like Li Fei did. For a moment, Duan Lingtian only felt two waves of fresh fragrance assailing his nostrils, causing him to feel relaxed and happy. Ke and Li Fei's provocative actions made the onlookers look at the two inner island disciples strangely, as if they wanted to know how they would react. The two inner island disciples' faces were as dark as they could get. "Let's go," Duan Lingtian called out to the two girls beside him softly. They then stepped into the air and prepared to leave. However, they were blocked by the two inner island disciples as soon as they stepped into the air. "What are you doing?" Li Fei asked coldly with a murderous look on her pretty face. She had finally reunited with her man and wanted to find a quiet place to ask him about his recent experiences. However, she was blocked by the two flies in front of her. It was hard for her not to be angry. Ke's face was dark as well. "Scram." Duan Lingtian looked at the two inner island disciples in the eye for the first time and said nonchalantly. Although his voice was not loud, it was filled with an unquestionable tone. "You've got quite the temper." One of the inner island disciples sneered and looked at Duan Lingtian mockingly. "Boy, I'd like to see today. How can a gigolo like you be the fiancé of our two junior sisters?" "That's right. If you want to get the beauties, you'll have to prove to us that you have the ability." The other inner island disciple chimed in. "Who do you think you are? He's the man that both of us have chosen. What does that have to do with you? Why should we prove it to you?" Li Fei sneered. "Young master asked you to scram. Didn't you hear him?" Even Ke, who had always been good-tempered, looked extremely upset. She glared at the two inner island disciples and said coldly. For a moment, the onlookers looked at the two inner island disciples with strange looks. When the two inner island disciples sensed the strange gazes that were directed at them from the surroundings, their expressions turned even graver. The way they looked at Duan Lingtian turned even more vicious. "Junior sister Li Fei, you can't say that. There are many things that you don't know when you're in the situation. But as onlookers, we can see through you." One of the inner island disciples stared at Duan Lingtian with a cold gleam in his eyes and said word by word, "This gigolo doesn't deserve all of you. Don't be fooled by his appearance." Before Li Fei could respond, the other inner island disciple looked at Duan Lingtian with a smirk on his face. "How dare you ask us to scram? I'd like to see what you're made of to be chosen by our two junior sisters and become their fiancé." The moment the inner island disciple's words left his mouth, the robe on his body suddenly expanded. The origin energy in his body continued to rise and turned into a milky white flame in the blink of an eye. As soon as the milky white flame appeared, it turned into a multicolored energy. It was apparent that apart from unleashing his origin energy, this inner island disciple had also communicated and unleashed the various profundities that he had comprehended. He stood there majestically. That's right. I'd like to see what he's made of as well. The other inner island disciple regained his senses and did the same. The energy in his body also surged and his aura was majestic. He's the same as us. He's also a guest of the hidden fog island. If you dare to attack him, Emperor Wu behind him won't let you go. Li Fei's expression changed drastically when she saw that the two inner island disciples were about to attack. She threatened them coldly. Although the heaven and earth energy here would not form a heaven and earth phenomenon because of the energy that surged out from the two of them, she knew it. She knew very well. She was not a match for these two hidden fog island inner island disciples, and neither was Kerr. As for her fiancé, Duan Lingtian, although he could come here with a powerhouse like Emperor Wu, it was very likely that he was just here to join in the fun like them. Even if he was not here to join in the fun, he would at most be an ordinary disciple of Emperor Wu. He would not have the confidence to defeat these two hidden fog island inner island disciples who were comparable to Emperor Wu's disciples. As for becoming Emperor Wu's direct disciple, she did not dare to think about it. She and Kerr had encountered many fortuitous encounters along the way, but they were still on the 7th and 8th level martial monarch stage. They had not even reached the 9th level martial monarch stage yet. Subconsciously, she did not think that her man would be much more powerful than them. Don't worry, junior sister Li Fei. We just want to spar with him. We won't take his life. One of the inner island disciples smiled. It was a bright smile. The more Li Fei behaved like this, the more he felt that Li Fei was guilty. Li Fei was guilty because Li Fei knew that her fiancé's ability was not as good as his. He could not help but feel a little smug. Although we won't take his life, fists and legs have no eyes. If we accidentally destroy his Dantian, I'm sure that Emperor Wu powerhouse behind him won't be able to say anything. Another inner island disciple said. His words revealed an important piece of information. Even if he could not kill Duan Lingtian, he would destroy Duan Lingtian's Dantian and turn Duan Lingtian into a cripple, in his opinion. As long as this pretty boy in front of him lost his cultivation base, Li Fei and Kerr would definitely not acknowledge him as their fiancé no matter how good-looking he was. At that time, he would have another chance to get either Li Fei or Kerr. Haha, that's right. The inner island disciple laughed heartily. His laughter was filled with pride. How dare you? At this moment, Li Fei and Kerr let go of Duan Lingtian's shoulders in tacit understanding. They took a step forward and stood in front of Duan Lingtian, protecting Duan Lingtian behind them. If you want to hurt my, Li Fei's man, you'll have to step over my, Li Fei's, dead body first. The origin energy in Li Fei's body skyrocketed. Various profundities followed like shadows. She stared at the two inner island disciples coldly, showing off her heroism. Although Kerr did not say anything, her actions undoubtedly showed that Li Fei's words were her words. A winner in life. A winner in life. This Duan Lingtian is a winner in life. Nobody knew when, but someone could not help but exclaim in a low voice. His voice was filled with envy. When Duan Lingtian introduced himself to Su Rong, many people in the surroundings had already remembered Duan Lingtian's name. Therefore, many people knew his name. He's indeed a winner in life. Not only does he have two peerless beauties as his fiancées, but his two fiancées are even willing to die for him. It's already a blessing to have one such woman in one's lifetime. However, he has two. How enviable. All the men in the crowd looked at Duan Lingtian with red eyes. Flames of jealousy were burning in their hearts. When the two inner island disciples saw Li Fei and Ku standing in front of Duan Lingtian resolutely to protect him, looking as though they were ready to fight to the death with them, their faces turned extremely grave. Would they dare to kill Li Fei and Kerr? The answer was no. If they were in a secluded place, perhaps they could kill them to prevent Emperor Wu, who was behind Li Fei and Kerr, from finding out what they had done. However, with so many people watching, they would not dare to kill Li Fei and Kerr even if they were given 100 guts. Both of them looked at each other and saw the dilemma in each other's eyes. However, one of them's eyes lit up very quickly. He seemed to have thought of a way to deal with it. Li Fei and Ker's faces turned grave when they noticed this person's gaze. Although they did not know what the other person was thinking, they could not help but feel worried. What a gigolo! You're destined to hide behind women and live off them for the rest of your life. The inner island disciple, whose eyes lit up, immediately looked at Duan Lingtian and chuckled as he mocked him sharply. As if they had discussed this beforehand, the other inner island disciple added, "If I were you, I'd dig a hole and hide in it. As a man, I can't afford to lose face like this." If you ask me, he's not a man at all. The former continued to agree. As the two inner island disciples spoke, Li Fei and Ker's faces darkened even more. Bastards, ignore them. That's right, young master. They're provoking you on purpose. Ignore them. The two girls immediately turned to look at Duan Lingtian and reminded him. However, although the two inner island disciples were provoking Duan Lingtian on purpose, the surrounding people's gazes all fell on Duan Lingtian at the same time. These gazes were filled with sarcasm, mockery, disdain, and disdain. No one looked up to a man who hid behind women. Coward. Trash. The two inner island disciples added fuel to the fire as if they wanted to see the world in chaos. Their gazes toward Duan Lingtian were filled with contempt. To be able to reach such a level as a man, you can be considered the only one. If you ask me, you might as well hide behind the women. It'll be safer that way. The two inner island disciples saw Duan Lingtian standing there with his face unchanged and indifferent. They mocked him one after another and trampled on Duan Lingtian's dignity wantonly. They only had one goal: to provoke Duan Lingtian, to make Duan Lingtian take the initiative to attack them. That way, they would have the opportunity to destroy Duan Lingtian's dantian and make Duan Lingtian a complete cripple. You two, are you done barking? Finally, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Duan Lingtian made a move. He stretched out his pinky finger and picked at his ear unhurriedly as he said lazily, "This is the first time I've seen a dog that barks so loudly." Duan Lingtian emphasized the word dog in the end. Wow. Duan Lingtian was quiet, but when he did, the crowd was in an uproar. The gazes of contempt that were looking at Duan Lingtian now fell on the two inner island disciples at the same time, as if they were waiting to see how the two inner island disciples would react. Chapter 1275. Dogs? Did this gigolo just call them dogs? All of a sudden, the two inner island disciples felt a surge of anger rushing to their heads, causing them to almost lose their minds. Boy, you're courting death. Both of them were enraged. The energy in their bodies surged, causing turbulence in the air. With a series of thunderous air explosions, billowing air billows raged. It seemed to have turned into a gust of wind that swept in all directions. The two inner island disciples, who had almost lost their minds, no longer cared about Li Fei and Ker. Their robes billowed as they moved and disappeared. Whoosh, whoosh. Two figures that were like bolts of lightning soared through the sky and headed straight for Duan Lingtian. They've made their move. Although most of the onlookers could not see what the two inner island disciples were doing, their sudden disappearance made them realize that they had made their move. Something interesting is about to happen. Many people were eager to see the world in chaos. They were afraid that they would be caught in the crossfire, so they retreated while observing the situation from afar. At the same time, Duan Lingtian moved leisurely in the face of the two inner island disciples who were coming at him menacingly. As soon as he moved, he appeared in front of Li Fei and Ker, who were standing side by side. He shielded the two girls behind him. Li Fei and Ker, who had planned to fight the two inner island disciples to the death, only saw a flash in front of their eyes before a familiar figure appeared in front of them. So fast. For a moment, they were shocked. You're like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. When they regained their senses and were shocked by Duan Lingtian's speed, Duan Lingtian's voice resonated in their ears again. It was extremely indifferent. Bang! Ah! At the same time, they heard a loud bang, followed by a scream. No. To be exact, there were two screams. Since the two screams came at the same time, it was hard to tell whether it was from one or two people. When they looked in the direction of the sound, They saw the bodies of the two inner island disciples flying out like arrows and landing heavily on the ground. The power in their bodies was instantly annihilated, as if it had never existed. No, no, my Danteon, you are so ruthless. You're so cruel. Soon, a group of onlookers, including Li Fei and Kerr, saw the two inner island disciples rolling on the ground and screaming in agony. In the end, the two inner island disciples gritted their teeth and glared at the purple-clad young man in the air. It was as if they had a grudge against him for killing their fathers and stealing their wives. Their Danteon was destroyed? At this time, many people came to their senses and were shocked. Earlier, they said that they were going to cripple someone's Danteon. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, their Danteon would be crippled instead? This Duan Lingtian's strength is truly terrifying. From beginning to end, I didn't see his movements clearly. Me too. I've been watching him, but I didn't see him make a move. There was an uproar among the onlookers. When they looked at Duan Lingtian again, their gazes were filled with fear and respect. At this time, Li Fei and Kerr looked at each other and saw the shock and horror in each other's eyes. Let's go. Duan Lingtian ignored the onlookers' fearful gazes and the two inner island disciples' ferocious gazes. He turned around and called out to Li Fei and Kerr. The two girls nodded obediently. At the same time, their eyes were filled with curiosity. They were curious about their man's experience all these years. Judging from the strength that their man had displayed earlier, his strength was definitely comparable to Emperor Wu's direct disciples on the Cloud Continent. Such strength was comparable to the Hidden Fog Island's core disciples. Naturally, it would be easy for him to cripple the two inner island disciples. When Duan Lingtian and the other two left, the onlookers looked at them respectfully. If Duan Lingtian wanted to, it would be easy for him to kill the two inner island disciples earlier. However, he did not do that. If he had killed the two inner island disciples, the news would definitely spread among the onlookers and even the Hidden Fog Island's senior officials. By then, the Hidden Fog Island's senior officials would definitely be furious. After all, it was undoubtedly a naked humiliation for the Hidden Fog Island's disciples to be killed on the Hidden Fog Island. Of course, this did not mean that Duan Lingtian was afraid of the Hidden Fog Island's senior officials. Even if he was no match for them, he could always escape. The Hidden Fog Island's senior officials might not be able to react in time. However, even if he managed to escape, it would mean that he would not be able to obtain the Saint Stone as the reward of the Hidden Fog martial competition. That kind of ending was not what he wanted. To him, the two inner island disciples' lives were far less important than the Saint Stone. Therefore, for the sake of the Saint Stone, he spared the two inner island disciples' lives and crippled their Dantians, making them suffer a fate worse than death. What happened today was completely due to the provocation of the two inner island disciples. They even threatened to destroy his Danteon in front of everyone. Therefore, his actions could be considered as self-defense. Even if the Hidden Fog Island's people were enraged, they would not dare to look for trouble with him openly. After all, their people were in the wrong. Just as Duan Lingtian, Li Fei, and Kerr left, the two inner island disciples' eyes widened. They felt that the sky above their heads was about to collapse. Since their cultivation base had been crippled, they were destined to be mediocre in the future. When they thought of this, they clenched their teeth so hard that they almost broke their teeth as they looked at the three leaving figures. I won't let you guys go. I won't let you guys go. The two inner island disciples kept roaring in their hearts. When the onlookers saw that Duan Lingtian and the other two silhouettes had disappeared from their sight, they regained their senses one by one. After looking at the two inner island disciples with pity, they dispersed one after another. I want him and those two cheese to die. After the two inner island disciples took out healing pills and consumed them, one of them said angrily while clenching his teeth, "We must find a way to take revenge." The other one said with his eyes wide open, "I swear I'm not human if I don't take revenge." The two of them looked at each other and ran out of the Hidden Fog City, heading straight to the east island of the Hidden Fog Island. On the other hand, Duan Lingtian brought Li Fei and Kerr out of the Hidden Fog City. They only stopped when they arrived at the west side of the Hidden Fog City, above an empty forest. Young master, you're so powerful. Just like before, Ku'er looked at Duan Tian with an expression of adoration, and her little face was flushed with excitement. Scoundrel, how did you become so powerful? I thought Sister Kerr and I had already surpassed you after so many years. I didn't expect you to still leave us far behind. Li Fei smiled wryly when she reached the end of her sentence. She felt that her previous thoughts were so childish. Young master, how did you survive all these years? Kerr asked curiously. She was very interested in Duan Lingtian's experience all these years. Li Fei looked at Duan Lingtian as well. She was also interested in this. All these years. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian fell silent. After a while, he sighed and said, although I've recovered some of my memories since I lost them, there's still a part that I haven't recovered. That part of my memory is from the southern outer land on Cloud Continent. I only remember that I came from the southern outer land, but I don't know anything about what I've experienced in the southern outer land. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he looked at Li Fei and Kerr with hope in his eyes. I think the memories related to both of you and me should also be part of the memories from the southern outer land. Tell me about the past. Perhaps I'll be able to recall something. Duan Lingtian looked at Li Fei and Kerr as he said in a slightly urgent manner. He had always wanted to know about his past, but he could not recall it in the end. Now that he met these two women who gave him a familiar and intimate feeling and called themselves his fiancées, he wanted to know more about his past. He wanted to know how he had met them, how they had gotten together, and even how they had gotten engaged. Let Sister Kerr speak first. She knew you before I did. Li Fei looked at Kerr. Young master, the first time I met you was on the streets of Fresh Breeze Town. At that time, it was the darkest and most helpless time in my life. At that time, my mother, whom I relied on for survival, died. I felt like the sky was falling down. At that time, I only had one thought. No matter what, I had to bury my mother properly. She didn't enjoy any happiness when she was alive, so I couldn't let her suffer when she was no longer around. Therefore, for the sake of my mother, I sold my body on the streets to bury her. When Kerr reached this point, her face was already covered in tears. She looked at Duan Lingtian and smiled through her tears. It was also at that time that I met you, young master. At that time, young master was the first person who was willing to spend money to bury my mother without seeing my appearance. At that time, I knew that young master was a good person. So, after burying my mother, even if young master didn't intend to let me go with you, I still decided to go with you. Facts prove that my choice was correct. After arriving at the Li family in Fresh Breeze Town, young master and madam treated me like family and took care of me in every possible way. From that time on, I saw young master and madam as my only family in this world. As Kerr spoke slowly, her eyes revealed a trace of reminiscence. After that, I stayed at the Li family in Fresh Breeze Town. After staying there, I personally witnessed young masters rise all the way to becoming one of the most outstanding young talents in Fresh Breeze Town. Not only that, young master was later recommended by the Li family in Fresh Breeze Town to the Li family in Aurora City, which is also the original clan of the Li family in Fresh Breeze Town. It was also there that young master met Sister Fei. When she spoke up to this point, Kerr paused for a moment before looking at Li Fei beside her. Sister Li Fei, I'll leave the rest to you to tell young master. Chapter 1276. As for when they parted ways with Duan Lingtian, they left together. It was even to the extent that when they left, they didn't even have the time to bid farewell to Duan Lingtian, and in the following days, they often felt regret because of this. The first time I met you was during the clan martial competition held by the Aurora City's Li clan. Meanwhile, Li Fei continued Kerr's words and continued to speak to Duan Lingtian. From the first time she met Duan Lingtian, her impression of Duan Lingtian wasn't very good, and she felt that Duan Lingtian was very frivolous. She slowly spoke of Duan Lingtian's experiences in Aurora City. During this time, Li Fei didn't forget to speak of the existence of the two little pythons. I truly never imagined that when I was young, I actually had such a wonderful experience. Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart when he heard Li Fei. After she finished speaking of the events in Aurora City, Li Fei continued. After that, you went to the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Iron Blood Army's Genius Camp and stayed there for a period of time. After that, you returned and went to the Imperial City with us, and you settled down in the Imperial City. Subsequently, Li Fei spoke of Duan Lingtian's experiences in the Imperial City, including Paladin Academy, the Divine Might Marquis Estate, the Duan clan, and the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial family. Of course, Li Fei only spoke of what she knew. At that time, you led the Crimson Sky Kingdom soldiers to capture a neighboring country's city without expending a single soldier, and you seem to have become in existence like a god of war. In the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom, there was practically no one who didn't know of you. As she spoke up to hear, Li Fei's beautiful eyes seemed to have a burning gaze. That was her man. She was proud of it. Right when your name shook the Crimson Sky Kingdom, you made a decision to leave the Crimson Sky Kingdom and head to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. At the first possible moment, you locked onto the Seven-Star Sword Sect, the leader of the 5 great sects of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. On the way to the Seven-Star Sword Sect, we encountered Little Gold. Li Fei paused for a moment. Little Gold? What's that? Duan Lingtian was puzzled. Little Gold is a rat-type demon beast. According to your words, it seems to be some jade-eyed heavenly mouse. Li Fei said. What? Jade-eyed heavenly mouse? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be shocked when he heard this. Although he had yet to recall many things from the past, he still knew a little about the jade-eyed heavenly mouse. He knew that it was a powerful demon beast that could easily break through to the Emperor Wu realm when it matured. And he had encountered a jade-eyed heavenly mouse? In next to no time, Duan Lingtian's slightly agitated mood calmed down once again, because Li Fei had already continued to speak about what happened after that. What happened after that was none other than the matter of him being in the Seven-Star Sword Sect, the leader of the 5 great sects of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. During this period of time, Li Fei didn't forget to tell Duan Lingtian some other things. For example, when they left the Seven-Star Sword Sect and went to the ancient city of Everlast. In the ancient city of Everlast, they got to know Zhang Shouyong and Wang Qiong. In the end, Li Fei spoke about how she and Kerr left with the Peak Master of the Seven-Star Sword Sect's Alcade Peak, Qin Xiang. They originally thought that it was just an ordinary birthday celebration, but they never imagined that they would stay in the Yin Yang sect because of this. Yin Yang sect? Duan Lingtian frowned. Scoundrel, you know about the Yin Yang sect? Li Fei asked curiously. Kerr looked at Duan Lingtian as well and asked with a concerned expression. Young master, what's wrong with you? In my recovered memories, I've been to the Yin Yang sect, but why did I go to the Yin Yang sect? Why can't I recall it for a while? Duan Lingtian shook his head ceaselessly. He kept feeling that in the part of his recovered memories, there was still a small part that was incomplete. That small part was also the most important. Young master, you've been to the Yin Yang sect? Kerr couldn't help but be shocked. Yes, I've been there. Duan Lingtian nodded. In my recovered memories, I seem to have killed the peak master of the Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak. He seemed to be called Yang Hong. His son was also killed by me. But why did I kill him? Duan Lingtian muttered in a low voice, and his brows were tightly knit together. What? Yang Hong and his son are dead? The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, Li Fei and Kerr turned pale with fright. After the initial shock, their faces were filled with excitement. Yang Hong and his son were their irreconcilable enemies. They still remembered. The reason they could escape from the Yin Yang sect was because their senior sister, Yang Shui, had tried her best to stop Yang Hong. That was how they managed to escape. Even when they went all the way north and entered Yuhan Valley, they wanted to avenge their senior sister, Yang Shui, and their master. Their master was the deputy peak master of Yin Peak, and he was killed by Yang Hong. However, regardless of whether it was Li Fei or Kerr, they would never have thought that the enemy they desperately wanted to kill was already dead. Moreover, he was killed by their fiancée. No. Suddenly, Li Fei seemed to have recalled something, and her beautiful face tensed up slightly. Sister Feier, do you think the people who came looking for us were really young master's men? Kerr asked. Li Fei took a deep breath. Kerr had the same thought as her. She still remembered. Back then, when she and Kerr successfully escaped from the Yin-Yang sect, someone who knew the name of their fiancé came looking for them while they were hiding. However, they thought it was a trap, so they did not go out. Later on, many people, including the Supreme Elder of Yang Peak and the 2 Deputy Peak Masters of Yang Peak, came looking for them and said that their fiancé, Duan Lingtian, had killed Yang Hong and his son. At that time, they did not believe it. After all, it was Yang Hong and his son's scheme that lured them out. Scoundrel, when did you arrive at the Yin-Yang sect? Li Fei asked after taking a deep breath. As long as Duan Lingtian could tell her when he arrived at the Yin-Yang sect, she would know whether what she and Kerr had faced was real or not. I think so. Duan Lingtian pondered for a moment before he roughly told her the time he arrived at the Yin-Yang sect. Boom. For a moment, whether it was Li Fei or Kerr, it was as though they had been struck by lightning. They were so shocked that they could not regain their senses for a long time. Sister Feier. At that time, it was really young master. Kerr looked at Li Fei and said with a complicated gaze, "We were so close. If we didn't continue to hide at that time and came out, perhaps we would have reunited with the scoundrel." Li Fei sighed. She regretted her choice at that time. Sister Feier, it's not like you don't know the situation at that time. At that time, we couldn't take the risk. Kerr comforted Li Fei. Scoundrel, since you arrived at the Yin-Yang sect after we left and killed Yang Hong and his son, did you see senior sister Yang Shui when you killed them? Li Fei looked at Duan Lingtian and asked eagerly, "In that case, I went to the Yin-Yang sect because of them?" At this moment, Duan Lingtian had also guessed his purpose of going to the Yin-Yang sect. As it turned out, it was to look for his 2 fiancés. Yang Shui? Upon hearing Li Fei's question, Duan Lingtian was puzzled. Who's that? After Li Fei roughly described Yang Shui's characteristics, Duan Lingtian finally understood. So, you're talking about her. When I arrived, she was already dead. Dead? Although Li Fei and Kerr were already mentally prepared, they could not help but turn pale when they heard the news of Yang Shui's death from Duan Lingtian. 2 streaks of tears fell from their faces, causing them to look haggard. However, I used an ice coffin made of 10,000-years-old ice to preserve her body. When I recalled this earlier, I couldn't remember why I did that at all. Now, it seems like it has something to do with both of you. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he could not help but sigh. Just when Li Fei and Kerr became a little dispirited after hearing the news of Yang Shui's death, Duan Lingtian was suddenly stunned. His brows were tightly knitted together. At the same time, he felt a slight tingling in the depths of his mind. This tingling sensation caused his body to tremble uncontrollably. At the same time, he clearly noticed that there were a lot of scattered images in his mind. In his mind, there were many fragmented images flashing past. These images seemed to come from the memories he had yet to recover. The memory fragments were densely packed together. He tried to piece them together, but it was difficult. Every step was difficult. At this moment, the tingling sensation suddenly intensified. Duan Lingtian could not endure it at all and let out a shrill cry. At this moment, he only felt a splitting headache. It was as if his entire head was about to be torn apart. Scoundrel! Young master! At this moment, Li Fei and Kerr were alarmed. They immediately put aside their memories of Yang Shui and looked at Duan Lingtian worriedly at the same time. However, after Duan Lingtian screamed, a sudden change occurred. His entire body trembled even more violently as if he had encountered something bad. At this moment, his eyes also became dim and lifeless. It was as if he had become a living dead. At this moment, Li Fei and Kerr panicked. They did not know what had just happened. They did not know why Duan Lingtian suddenly became like this. East Island, Hidden Fog Island. 2 Inner Island disciples whose Dantian was crippled finally ran all the way back to East Island with the strength of their legs. Their Dantian was crippled, and they had lost all of their origin energy. They could not fly in the air. However, with the various profundities that they had comprehended, their speed was not slow at all. It did not take long for them to return to East Island, to the place where they used to cultivate. However, this time, they did not return to the place where they used to cultivate. They knew very well in their hearts. Right now, They no longer had the right to stay in East Island. They only had one purpose in coming back: revenge. Senior Brother Chun has always been lustful. Since we can't get those two bitches, we'll destroy them. Chapter 1277. Ouch! Ouch! Duan Lingtian held his head that was about to split open with both of his hands as he growled like a wild beast. At this moment, it was as though he had transformed into an injured beast. He did not know when it happened, but his forehead was already drenched in sweat. Creak, creak, creak. Duan Lingtian's teeth kept chattering as he made strange noises that would make anyone's hair stand on end. Scoundrel! Young master! Li Fei and Kerr stood at the side anxiously. Since they did not know what had happened to Duan Lingtian, they did not dare to act rashly. They could only stand where they were and look at Duan Lingtian worriedly. Their hearts ached as they looked at Duan Lingtian, who was sweating profusely and appeared to be in extreme pain. If pain could be transferred, they would not hesitate to transfer their man's pain to themselves so that he would not suffer. At this moment, images flashed past Duan Lingtian's mind. These images were fragments of his past memories. As the images flashed past faster and faster, Duan Lingtian felt as though his head was about to explode. He could not help but growl again and again. What the hell? What's your soul made of, brat? Soon after, a voice resonated in Duan Lingtian's mind. This voice was filled with shock and disbelief. It was none other than Wang Ba. At this speed, I'm afraid your soul will fully recover in 15 minutes at most. Wang Ba said as though he had seen a ghost. You're really a monster, brat. I've lived for half of my life, but this is the first time I've seen a monster who can recover his soul so quickly. However, Duan Lingtian did not seem to hear Wang Ba's words. Or rather, he could not divert his attention to listen at all. At this moment, he only felt a splitting headache. He did not seem to be aware of his surroundings at all. Perhaps he would not be able to resist even if someone wanted to kill him. Scoundrel! Young master! Li Fei and Kerr stood to the side. They were very worried about Duan Lingtian's situation. Unknowingly, they were so anxious that tears began to flow out. Time passed quietly. A quarter of an hour later, the beast-like low roar disappeared, and the sound of teeth chattering also disappeared. Duan Lingtian, whose body was violently trembling, finally regained his calm. That said, even though he had regained his calm, blood was still flowing from his mouth. His teeth continued to chatter, splitting his mouth and causing blood to flow out. After calming down, Duan Lingtian let out a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Right now, he looked as if he had just been drenched by a heavy rain. His clothes were completely soaked. Of course, his clothes were drenched in cold sweat. Seeing that Duan Lingtian had regained his calm, Li Fei and Kerr heaved a sigh of relief. When they saw that Duan Lingtian was still bleeding from his mouth, they both flew out. For a moment, Duan Lingtian could only smell two fragrances that were accompanied by two similar medicinal fragrances. Grade 1 Life Recovery Pill. Without any hesitation, Duan Lingtian opened his mouth and swallowed the pills that the two girls had brought over. A moment later, the blood in his mouth stopped flowing. If a third person saw this scene, they would definitely curse him for wasting God's gift. The splitting of the mouth and the bleeding were only superficial wounds. Even a grade 9 gold injury pill could stop the bleeding in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! As the origin energy on Duan Lingtian's body fluctuated, his drenched clothes were dried in just a moment. After his clothes were dried, without waiting for Li Fei and Kerr to return to their senses, Duan Lingtian stretched out his hands and took the opportunity to pull the two girls into his arms. Duan Lingtian put the two girls' heads close to his cheek and a brilliant smile appeared on his face. Kerr, little Feier, we haven't seen each other for so many years. Did you miss me very much? Bah, I didn't miss you. Li Fei, who was caught off guard by Duan Lingtian's sneak attack, replied instinctively when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. However, as soon as her words left her mouth, she was stunned. This was because she could hear that Duan Lingtian's tone seemed to be a little off. This feeling made her unable to help but recall the feeling she had when she was with Duan Lingtian in the past. She had a feeling. Her man seemed to have returned. To be more precise, her man from the past had returned. Young master, you've regained your memory? Kerr asked in surprise when she also felt Duan Lingtian's change. Yes, I've recovered. Duan Lingtian smiled and nodded. After a full 15 minutes of torture earlier, his soul had finally recovered at an extremely fast speed. Since his soul had recovered, his memory had naturally recovered as well. The moment the splitting headache left him, his current memories perfectly merged with his past memories. He remembered everything. The two girls standing in front of him were his two fiancées that had been in his dreams all these years. They were existences that he treasured as much as his life. After receiving Duan Lingtian's confirmation, the two girls who still had tear stains on their faces broke into smiles. They hugged Duan Lingtian tightly together and leaned their heads on Duan Lingtian's shoulder. At this moment, the atmosphere also became charming and gentle. Half a day had passed, but the two girls were still unwilling to move. They just leaned on Duan Lingtian quietly. If it was possible, they wished this moment would last forever. To hug their loved ones until the end of time. What a wonderful thing that would be. Duan Lingtian hugged Li Fei and Kerr tightly. He rubbed his face against Li Fei and Kerr. Kerr, little Feier, according to what you said earlier, when I went to the Yin Yang sect and killed Yang Hong, the peak master of Yang Peak, and sent someone to look for you, were you still nearby? Duan Lingtian asked curiously after a while. Yes. Li Fei nodded. When the supreme elder of Yang Peak and the two vice peak masters of Yang Peak came to look for us, we were still there. However, we thought it was Yang Hong and his son's scheme. Fate really makes fools of us. Duan Lingtian sighed. If that's the case, you should have heard about the news about me and the Lingtian sect that I asked someone to spread, right? We heard about it. At that time, we thought it was Yang Hong and his son who wanted to bait us. Li Fei nodded and sighed. Now that I think about it, I was too sensitive at that time. If I had stayed and verified it, we might have been reunited a long time ago. Under those circumstances, you were right to be careful. Besides, aren't we reunited now? Duan Lingtian smiled. Moreover, I've already avenged senior sister Yang Shui and your master. Duan Lingtian added. Scoundrel, thank you. Li Fei took a deep breath and hugged Duan Lingtian tighter. Master, senior sister, the person who harmed you is dead. Both of you can rest in peace in the underworld. Kerr slowly stood up and held Duan Lingtian's arm. She looked in the direction of Cloud Continent and bowed slightly as she muttered. Duan Lingtian and Li Fei also bowed in the direction of Cloud Continent. Master, senior sister, he's the man of Sister Kerr and I. He's avenged both of you. Li Fei looked in the direction of Cloud Continent and said softly. Li Fei and Kerr had tears rolling down their faces again. It was obvious that they were reminded of their master and senior sister when they were still in the Yin Yang sect. Tell me about what happened after you left the southern area of Cloud Continent's inner land. Duan Lingtian noticed Li Fei and Kerr's sadness and changed the topic to divert their attention. Duan Lingtian learned about what happened to them from Li Fei and Kerr. They went north and went through many hardships. In the end, they arrived at the northern area of Cloud Continent's inner land safely and successfully joined Yuhan Valley. Speaking of Yuhan Valley, both of your abilities shouldn't be enough to represent Yuhan Valley in the Hidden Fog martial competition, right? Duan Lingtian asked in confusion. He had already probed Li Fei and Kerr's cultivation base with his spiritual energy. Li Fei was at the 7th level martial monarch stage while Kerr was at the 8th level martial monarch stage. Duan Lingtian was surprised by their improvement. Based on their abilities, it was impossible for them to get the chance to join the Hidden Fog martial competition. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to you. Li Fei said. It's all thanks to me? Duan Lingtian was stunned. Little Feier, what do you mean? I don't know that Yuhan Emperor Wu from Yuhan Valley. Young master, it's because of Han Bing's divine sword technique? Kerr said. Han Bing's divine sword technique? What's wrong with Han Bing's divine sword technique? Duan Lingtian was even more confused. Of course, he knew about Han Bing's divine sword technique. It was a top cultivation method recorded in the reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory that he had integrated. Of course, it was only a top cultivation method on Cloud Continent. Besides, he also remembered. Back then, he had passed the Han Bing's God Sword technique to Ku Air. However, he could not figure it out. What did Kerr and Li Fei's arrival have to do with Han Bing's divine sword technique? Scoundrel, I'm afraid you've never thought that. Kerr's and my master, the Yu Han Emperor Wu, would cultivate Han Bing's divine sword technique. Li Fei took over and told Duan Lingtian. What? Duan Lingtian was shocked when he heard what Li Fei said. He then muttered, that Yu Han Emperor Wu. Could it be that she's related to the Ice Emperor Wu? No. The Ice Emperor Wu was someone from 20,000 years ago. Even if she's related to the Yu Han Emperor Wu, it must be very faint. Or perhaps, the reason why the Yu Han Emperor Wu knows Han Bing's divine sword technique is because of the inheritance that the Ice Emperor Wu left behind. Duan Lingtian was almost certain when he thought about it. Naturally, he thought that way because of the reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory. According to the logic in the reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, that was most likely the case. Kerr is willing to bring all of you to the hidden fog island just because she cultivates Han Bing's divine sword technique? Chapter 1278. Scoundrel, you've guessed wrongly. It's precisely because Sister Kerr cultivates Han Bing's God Sword technique that she was immediately accepted as a direct disciple by Yu Han Emperor Wu. Li Fei said to Duan Lingtian, I forgot. Earlier, you said that Yu Han Emperor Wu is your and Kerr's current master. Duan Lingtian recalled what Li Fei said earlier and came to a realization. However, it's not strange that Kerr became Yu Han Emperor Wu's direct disciple because of Han Bing's God Sword technique. How did you become Yu Han Emperor Wu's direct disciple? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. He knew very well in his heart, whether it was Kerr or Li Fei. In terms of strength and talent, they definitely could not enter Yu Han Emperor Wu's eyes. However, since Yu Han Emperor Wu accepted them as his direct disciples, there must be a reason. He already knew the reason for Kerr. As for Li Fei, he could not guess it. It's because of Sister Kerr's insistence. She said that if Yu Han Emperor Wu did not accept me as his direct disciple, she would not be willing to be his direct disciple either. Li Fei looked at Kerr. Yu Han Emperor Wu is so easy to talk to? Duan Lingtian raised his eyebrows, somewhat surprised. Actually, I was also quite surprised at that time. Logically speaking, if an Emperor Wu is willing to accept a person as his direct disciple, in his eyes, it's undoubtedly that person's good fortune. If that person still wanted to bargain with him, he would definitely be unhappy. However, Yu Han Emperor Wu did not. Not only did he not, he even agreed to Sister Kerr's conditions immediately when Kerr mentioned it. Li Fei said, if that's the case, there are only two possibilities. Duan Lingtian said, firstly, Yu Han Emperor Wu really wants Kerr to become his direct disciple. That's why he indulged Kerr so much. Secondly, Yu Han Emperor Wu has ulterior motives. After you became Yu Han Emperor Wu's direct disciples, did you notice anything strange when you were interacting with her? Duan Lingtian looked at Li Fei and Kerr and asked. A little. It was a little strange. Li Fei pondered for a moment before she said, she seems to be particularly interested in you. Me? Duan Lingtian was stunned. Yes. Yes, Li Fei said nodded. Yu Han Bing, S of you is? Use did you use? Seem to have asked you. Fei's master, SSS? Masters? Kerr was a little surprised. Kerr, based on what you said, could it be that Martial Emperor Yu Han has asked you about me? Duan Lingtian asked.
Yes.
Kerr nodded. The situation I encountered is similar to Fei's. Did you tell Yu Han Emperor Wu that the Han Bing's sword technique that you're cultivating is from me? Duan Lingtian asked again. Kerr nodded again. After confirming it, Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as a bright light flashed in them. Now, I can be sure. Your current master, Yu Han Emperor Wu, has ulterior motives and is even interested in me. Duan Lingtian said to Li Fei and Kerr. Otherwise, she wouldn't have asked you about me. Maybe she knows something. When he reached the end of his sentence, A hint of vigilance appeared on Duan Lingtian's face. Young master, you said master has ulterior motives? Kerr was also a little wary. She trusted Duan Lingtian unconditionally. As for Yuhan Emperor Wu, although they were master and disciple, the time they spent together did not even add up to half a day. Li Fei also looked at Duan Lingtian. Kerr, little Feier, I think it's time to tell you some things. Duan Lingtian looked at Kerr and Li Fei with a serious expression and said seriously, Young master, don't scare me. Seeing Duan Lingtian's serious expression, Kerr's beautiful face changed. Although Li Fei's expression did not change, she also frowned at this moment. She was also very curious about what Duan Lingtian was going to say next. Kerr, you've been following me for a long time. When we were at the Li family in Fresh Breeze Town, you should have heard about some things that happened to me in the Li family before you followed me, right? Duan Lingtian looked at Kerr. Kerr nodded. When she had first followed Duan Lingtian to the Li family in Fresh Breeze Town, she had also heard about Duan Lingtian's tragic past from some of the Li family members. However, after she had followed Duan Lingtian had acted out of character. Not only had he become high profile, but he had also become one of the most outstanding youths in Fresh Breeze Town. At that time, she had been suspicious. She wondered if the rumors about her young master's tragic past had been deliberately made up by someone. Actually, before I met you, I had a fortuitous encounter. That fortuitous encounter allowed me to fuse with the memories of an expert, the Emperor Wu. Duan Lingtian looked at Kerr and spoke frankly. He was talking about the matter of fusing with the memories of the Samsara Emperor Wu. As for the matter of his previous life, he did not mention it. It was not that he did not trust Kerr and Li Fei. The two of them were his fiancés, and he was even willing to give up his life for them, not to mention a mere background. He was only afraid of scaring them. After all, that matter was unimaginable to the two of them. Samsara Emperor Wu? The 3 lives Samsara technique? In his third life, he chose you, young master, and wanted to take over your body and replace you? Kerr was so frightened that her face turned white. A person from 20,000 years ago. That Samsara Emperor Wu is really terrifying. He can actually live for more than 20,000 years through a set of techniques. Li Fei was also frightened. After a while, she could not help but gasp. Then, Kerr and Li Fei also learned about the Samsara Emperor Wu's past from Duan Lingtian. For example, the Samsara Emperor Wu's achievements in the Tao of weapon forging, the Tao of medicine refining, and the Tao of inscription. No wonder you not only know how to forge weapons and refine pills, but also inscribe inscriptions. So it's all because of the memories of the Samsara Emperor Wu. Li Fei was enlightened. In the past, she really thought her fiancé was an all-around talent. It turned out that everything was because of the memories of the Samsara Emperor Wu. Perhaps the Samsara Emperor Wu did not expect that, in his third life, not only did he fail to reincarnate, he even used the memories of his 2 lives to make a wedding dress for you, young master. Kerr sighed. At this time, Kerr also knew about the origin of the Han Bing's God Sword technique. It was a technique that the Samsara Emperor Wu won from an expert with the title Han Bing from the hands of the Emperor Wu. Scoundrel! Cold Emperor Wu asked me and Kerr about you. Could it be related to the Samsara Emperor Wu? Li Fei guessed. I have this suspicion too. Since that Cold Emperor Wu knows the complete version of the Han Bing's God Sword technique, it means that she has a certain connection with the Frost Emperor Wu. Or maybe she obtained the inheritance of the Frost Emperor Wu. Duan Lingtian's eyes shone brightly like the stars in the night sky as he guessed. Can we think of it this way? She obtained the inheritance of the Frost Emperor Wu, and the Frost Emperor Wu left a record of the Samsara Emperor Wu in his inheritance? Li Fei guessed. Moreover, it also mentioned that her technique was obtained by the Samsara Emperor Wu. The reason why the Cold Emperor Wu asked about you is because she suspects that you're the 3rd reincarnation of the Samsara Emperor Wu. Maybe she even found out that the Samsara Emperor Wu was a royal-grade alchemist through the information that the Frost Emperor Wu left behind. Li Fei continued to guess. That's possible. Duan Lingtian nodded. Young master, I thought of something. Before I left Yuhan Valley and came to the hidden fog island, I accidentally entered the forbidden area of Yuhan Valley. Suddenly, Kerr seemed to have recalled something and said, "The forbidden area of Yuhan Valley?" Duan Lingtian was stunned. There are only two people in the entire Yuhan Valley who are qualified to enter the forbidden area of Yuhan Valley. One of them is the Yuhan Emperor Wu, and the other is Senior Sister Su. Li Fei said, "Senior Sister Su? The lady in green who was with you earlier?" Duan Lingtian asked curiously. "Yes, she's Senior Sister Su. Apart from that, she's also the eldest direct disciple of the Yuhan Emperor Wu and is highly regarded by the Yuhan Emperor Wu. Apart from that, it's rumored that she's also an Emperor Wu powerhouse." Li Fei continued, "The last time I accidentally entered the forbidden area, Senior Sister Su was the one who brought me out. However, I still saw a statue in the forbidden area, a statue that looked like a woman." Kerr said, "A statue?" Duan Lingtian and Li Fei were stunned. "Yes." Kerr nodded. "That statue was a woman who was standing with a sword. At that time, I could tell that the statue had been around for a long time. It might have been passed down from Yuhan Valley. What's different about the statue that looked like a woman who was standing with a sword?" Duan Lingtian asked. "There's a sword-shaped mark in between the woman's eyebrows. I'm not sure if it's the effect of the statue." Kerr said, "Between the eyebrows? A sword-shaped mark?" Duan Lingtian pondered for a moment and subconsciously searched through the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, the memories of his first lifetime. In the end, he confirmed it. The Frost Emperor Wu who had fought with the reincarnation Emperor Wu had a sword-shaped mark in between his eyebrows. He was once known as a natural-born sword cultivator because of that. The statue of the Frost Emperor Wu? It's been around for a long time? Duan Lingtian pondered for a moment and said, "If that's the case, it's not that the Yuhan Emperor Wu obtained the Frost Emperor Wu's inheritance. It's very likely that the ancestors of the Yuhan Valley obtained the Frost Emperor Wu's inheritance." Yuhan Valley. She didn't build it single-handedly, right? Duan Lingtian asked. No. Both Li Fei and Kerr knew what Duan Lingtian was asking. Just as Duan Lingtian and the other two were discussing the Yuhan Emperor Wu on the southern island of the Hidden Fog Island, the first thing Su Rong did when she returned from the Hidden Fog City was to look for the Yuhan Emperor Wu. "Master, Junior Sister Kerr and Junior Sister Li's fiancé has appeared," Su Rong reported respectfully. Chapter 1279. He was Kerr and Li Fei's fiancé. Was he not the person who was suspected to be the reincarnation of the reincarnation Emperor Wu? The reincarnation Emperor Wu was a powerhouse who stood at the pinnacle of the Cloud Continent 20,000 years ago. Apart from his terrifying strength, he was also a heaven-defying alchemist. Until now, she had never heard of an alchemist on the Cloud Continent who could break through the shackles of a Grade 1 alchemist to become a quasi-royal grade alchemist, let alone a royal grade alchemist. However, the reincarnation Emperor Wu from 20,000 years ago was a royal grade alchemist. During that era, the reincarnation Emperor Wu could be said to be an all-powerful existence. He was so popular on the Cloud Continent that nobody could compare to him. The Yuhan Emperor Wu knew all of this. Moreover, she also knew that the reincarnation Emperor Wu cultivated a heaven-defying cultivation method called the 3 lives reincarnation technique. One would need to go through 3 lives of reincarnation to cultivate it completely. After 20,000 years, it was time for the reincarnation Emperor Wu's 3rd reincarnation to be born. Han Bing's divine sword technique? According to the Frost Emperor Wu's words, apart from herself, she only passed it on to the reincarnation Emperor Wu at the moment of her death. Later on, Yuhan Valley obtained the Frost Emperor Wu's inheritance. In other words, apart from the reincarnation Emperor Wu and Yuhan Valley, nobody else in the world knows the Han Bing's divine sword technique. In Yuhan Valley, the Han Bing's divine sword technique is only passed on to the next Valley Master. It's impossible for it to be passed on to outsiders. Therefore, Kerr's Han Bing's divine sword technique must have been passed on to her by the reincarnation Emperor Wu. To be more precise, it was passed on to her by the reincarnation Emperor Wu's 3rd reincarnation. According to Kerr, the Han Bing's divine sword technique that she cultivated was passed on to her by her fiancé. Thousands of thoughts flashed through the mind of Emperor Wu in the blink of an eye. Finally, he came to a conclusion. Ker's fiancé was the third reincarnation of Samsara Emperor Wu. Where is he? The cold Emperor Wu looked at Su Rong with a burning gaze. He seemed to have lost his composure. She couldn't afford to lose her composure. Although the third reincarnation of Emperor Wu hadn't matured yet, it was a unique treasure to her. This was because he was not only a royal grade alchemist, but he was also a powerhouse who was once Emperor Wu. In his first life, Reincarnation Emperor Wu was an expert who stood at the peak of Cloud Continent. In his second life, if there were no accidents, he would definitely be an Emperor Wu as well. So much so that it might even surpass the first life. He, who had experienced 2 lifetimes, must have left something behind for his third reincarnation before he went through his third reincarnation. Among those things, there must be many that she coveted. Due to this reason, the cold Emperor Wu was eager to find the third reincarnation of Reincarnation Emperor Wu. She wanted to control him and steal his spatial ring. She wanted to enslave him. A royal-grade alchemist would become her slave. Just the thought of it made Martial Emperor Yuhan feel inexplicably excited. He's in the Hidden Fog City with junior sister Ker and junior sister Li, Su Rong said. Hidden Fog City? Martial Emperor Yuhan nodded. In the next second, she disappeared before Su Rong's eyes without any movement, leaving Su Rong dumbfounded. Master actually went there personally. It seems like that Duan Lingtian has something that Master is interested in, Su Rong thought to herself. Although she had guessed it a long time ago, it was only now that she confirmed it. Just as Su Rong was deep in her thoughts, the cold Emperor Wu was already on his way to the Hidden Fog City. Wherever he passed, the fog would disperse and make way for him. With the cold Emperor Wu's speed, it did not take long for him to arrive at the Hidden Fog City. Unfortunately, she was destined to return empty-handed. Whether it was Duan Lingtian, Ker, or Li Fei, all of them were no longer in the Hidden Fog City. Not only were they not in the Hidden Fog City, but they were also deliberately staying away from the city. However, the cold Emperor Wu soon heard about what Duan Lingtian had done in the Hidden Fog City not long ago, crippling 2 of the Hidden Fog Island's Inner Islands disciples. As expected of the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's third reincarnation. He's not even fully grown yet, but he's already so high profile. The cold Emperor Wu muttered to himself. After finding out from some people in the Hidden Fog City that Duan Lingtian, Ker, and Li Fei had already left the Hidden Fog City, the cold Emperor Wu also left the Hidden Fog City. She did not look for them everywhere. Although the Hidden Fog Island was not big, it was not easy to find the 3 of them. The cold Emperor Wu returned to the southern island and returned to the residence that the Hidden Fog Island had arranged for the people of the Yuhan Valley. After returning, the cold Emperor Wu went to look for Su Rong again. Tell me everything that happened when you met Ker and Li Fei's fiancé. Seeing that the cold Emperor Wu had returned alone and did not look good, Su Rong did not dare to delay. She told him everything that happened when she met Duan Lingtian without hiding anything. If that's the case, he must have followed an Emperor Wu or a demon emperor from the Cloud Continent to the Hidden Fog Island? The cold Emperor Wu's eyes gleamed as he muttered to himself. That should be the case. Su Rong nodded. Duan, Ling, Tian. The cold Emperor Wu repeated the name one word at a time. The light in his eyes was getting brighter and brighter. Duan Lingtian, the third reincarnation of the Reincarnation Emperor Wu? At this moment, the cold Emperor Wu had a rough idea of what was going on. In the eastern island of the Hidden Fog Island, in a valley with beautiful scenery, waves of decadent sounds could be heard continuously. The sounds were enough to make a shy person blush. A tall and sturdy young man was engaged in the most primitive activity with a young lady with a hot body. The lady was sprawled on a huge rock while the young man kept pounding her from behind. It was as though he was riding a horse. The obscene sounds came from the lady's mouth. After some time, the young man's movements became faster. In the end, he let out a low growl as his body twitched violently. He only calmed down after a while. As for the lady, she fell on the huge rock like a dead dog. She was so tired that she had passed out. The young man glanced at the pretty lady nonchalantly. With a lift of his hand, a long robe appeared and he put it on. Suddenly, The young man seemed to have noticed something as he looked out of the valley. Senior Brother Chen. At the same time, two voices came from outside the valley and entered the young man's ears clearly. Whoosh! The young man raised his brow when he heard the voices. He immediately moved as though he had transformed into a gust of wind and was blown out of the valley. It's you guys? After exiting the valley, the young man hovering in the air glanced at the two middle-aged men standing on the ground nonchalantly. Tell me, why are you looking for me? As a core disciple of the hidden fog island, he had some inner island disciples following him. The two men before him were his followers. Senior Brother Chun, our dantians have been crippled. One of the middle-aged men said with grief and indignation. There was an extremely cold gleam deep in his eyes, as though he was about to devour someone. The young man who was addressed as Senior Brother Chen was the core disciple of the hidden fog island, Chanji. Apart from having a shocking martial strength and having broken through to the Emperor Wu stage, Chanji had another hobby, and that was women. Anyone from the hidden fog island would more or less know about Chanji. Chanji was a core disciple of the hidden fog island. He was lustful and would not be satisfied without women. It was said that he would do the most primitive exercise at least twice a day. Moreover, he would not be interested in women if they were not beautiful. What's going on? Chunji frowned. As the saying went, before you beat a dog, you have to look at its master. He could not help but be furious when he learned that his two followers had their dantians crippled. Senior Brother Chin, you must avenge us. We offended that guy because of you. Senior Brother Chin? However, we didn't expect him to be so ruthless and cripple our dantians. The other middle-aged man said with shame and anger. Because of me? Chunji's frown deepened. Tell me, what's going on? Senior Brother Chun, it's like this. Not long ago, the two of us were in charge of receiving a powerhouse from the Cloud Continent, Emperor Wu, and his 10 disciples. The middle-aged man took a deep breath and suppressed his anger as he said, at that time, we were receiving a female Emperor Wu from the Cloud Continent, Yuhan Emperor Wu. The 10 disciples that Emperor Wu Yuhan brought were all female. Chunji's eyes lit up when the middle-aged man reached this part of the story. He was completely captivated. All of them were female disciples? In the depths of Chunji's eyes, there was a luster of lust. Among the 10 female disciples that Emperor Wu Yuhan brought, 2 of them were so beautiful that they could make the birds and beasts fall from the sky and put the flowers to shame. No, I should say that they're devastatingly beautiful. The middle-aged man blurted out, I've lived for so long, but it's my first time seeing such beautiful women. Moreover, there are 2 of them. Me too. The 2 women each had an appearance that could be said to be peerless. The words peerless beauties couldn't be more appropriate when used on them. The other middle-aged man chimed in. His eyes shone brightly as he spoke. Are they really that beautiful? Chunji's eyes had already lit up when the first middle-aged man spoke. His eyes were like stars. When the second middle-aged man chimed in, his breathing became hurried, and his sparkling eyes seemed to be filled with flames of desire. There were 2 things that he was most interested in his life. Firstly, cultivation. Secondly, women. To someone like him who was not happy without women, beauties were the source of his desire. How would we dare to lie to you, Senior Brother Chen? One of the middle-aged men hurriedly said, I don't think you dare to lie to me. However, I'm very interested in them. Tell me where they are now. There was a hint of urgency in Chenji's tone. Senior Brother Chen, we wanted to invite them to East Island to see you. Who would have thought that a fellow would appear out of nowhere? Not only did he cripple our cultivation base, but he even said that you're a toad who wants to eat swan meat. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.